If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter number 25 Introduction to the Battle Chateau. Welcome the Battle Chateau, beaux and dames. The group was greeted by an elderly man with a distinguished goatee, dressed in a sophisticated butler's outfit. Pikachu, feeling intimidated by the man's appearance, hid behind Austin as the group exchanged greetings with Hennessy. Is this, perhaps, your first time visiting here? Hennessy asked, his deep and resonant voice filling the room. Yes, it is, Yellow replied, her voice filled with excitement and curiosity. I saw an advertisement at the Pokémon Center and wanted to see what you had to offer here. Ah! Splendid! Hennessy exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with delight. As long as your trainers have received a recommendation from a person of stature, I will gladly accept you. A recommendation? Yellow asked, confused. I don't think we have received anything like that. Oh, dear. Perhaps there is someone you could call that I could speak to? Hennessy asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I know. Brock spoke up, his voice filled with confidence. We can call Professor Oak. He will surely give us one. Oh. You know Professor Oak? Hennessy asked, his eyes widening in surprise. Absolutely. Austin replied, a proud grin on his face. He gave me my starter Pokémon. Well, that is just wonderful. Hennessy exclaimed, his face beaming with happiness. If you may just let me see your Pokédex, that is a good enough recommendation for me. Professor Oak wouldn't give someone a Pokédex he didn't deem a worthy trainer. Yellow happily took out her Pokémon trainer card, certified by Professor Oak, and handed it to Hennessy, while Ash handed him his Pokédex. After confirming their identities, Hennessy handed the Pokédex back and clapped his hands together with delight. Wonderful! He exclaimed. Will all of you be participating today? Hey, guys! I'd like to try it out myself to see what it's like also if that's okay, Austin said, his voice filled with excitement and anticipation. Ash, I know you're interested but I have to recommend that you not participate since it could be detrimental to you and your Pokémon's health, Brock said, his voice filled with concern. Hearing Brock's words, Austin sighed, feeling disappointed but knowing that Brock was right. He looked at Pikachu, who seemed energetic, but his heart told him to let his partners rest for the day. They could battle in the Nugget Bridge Challenge tomorrow. Okay, looks like I won't be participating, Austin said, his voice tinged with regret. Brock just smiled, knowing from the look in Ash's eyes that he wanted to participate, but he had prioritized his Pokémon's health. A true trainer is worthy of respect. What about you? Austin asked, turning to Brock. Actually, I will just sit and watch, Brock replied, his voice filled with a sense of contentment. Okay, Hennessy. It will be only me participating, Yellow said, giving a nod. Excellent, madam! Hennessy exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. You may follow me so we may change your outfits. Why do I have to change my clothes? Yellow asked, tilting her head in confusion. Certainly. This is a place for elegant trainers to showcase their skills, Hennessy explained. They must be able to look their best. Okay then, Yellow shrugged, not fully understanding the significance of changing her attire. Are you sure you want to do this? Austin asked, his voice filled with a hint of concern. It can be a grueling experience for both you and your Pokémon. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Yellow replied, her voice filled with determination. Austin sighed, knowing that while Yellow was naive and childlike, she had a big heart for Pokémon. He was worried about her and her Pokémon getting hurt as she didn't have much experience battling, but remembering the incredible things Yellow had done in the manga, his worries were put to rest. Hennessy then led the group to another butler and a maid. I have a madam who would like to participate in our battle chateau today. Would you be so kind as to lead them to their rooms to change? Hennessy asked, his voice filled with respect and admiration. The butler and maid nodded in agreement. It would be our pleasure, sir, they replied in unison, their voices filled with excitement. Yellow followed the maid down a long, grand hallway, her heart beating with excitement. The sound of their footsteps echoed against the marble floor, adding to the grandeur of the place. The walls were adorned with beautiful paintings and tapestries, and the sound of soft classical music filled the air. Finally, they arrived at the changing room, where Yellow stood and looked around in awe. The room was massive, with several rows of dresses of different sizes aligned neatly and orderly. The room itself was sparkling clean and had a plush red carpet, and there were many different doors to where one could change clothes privately. "Here you are, madam," the maid said as she handed Yellow her outfit. "Please use one of the changing facilities over there," she added, pointing to one of the doors. Yellow then went into one of the rooms, closed the door, and began to change. She slipped into the pink dress with short sleeves edged with white frills, feeling the soft fabric against her skin. She then put on pantyhose on her legs and elegant pink flats to match. Finally, she placed a sparkling pink headband on her head. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she couldn't help but gasp in amazement. "Oh wow! I look so cute!" she said to herself, her voice filled with excitement. "I can't wait for Ash to see me like this." She then walked out of the changing room, leaving her other clothes behind, and was led by the maid back to the front hall. As she approached the group, she saw Ash, Brock, and Hennessy waiting for her. Yellow then went over to Austin. "How do I look, Ash?" she asked, her voice filled with anticipation, and she did a twirl for emphasis. A headache formed on Austin's head as the crush that Yellow had, was not broken, but he didn't want to be rude, so he replied, "Wow! You look great, Yellow. Very elegant." Yellow smiled, although it wasn't quite the reaction she was hoping for, it was good enough. "If I may have your attention, please. While you were changing, the match UPS were decided for this tournament. I would now like to explain the rules," Hennessy politely cut in, his voice ringing out with authority. "Whenever you are at a battle chateau, you are assigned a rank. Since this is your first time at one, you both shall begin with the starting rank, Baroness for the young dame, and Baron for the young beau. To ascend higher and improve your rank, you must defeat trainers in battle." Hennessy went on to explain the different ranks, from Baron or Baroness, to Viscount or Viscountess, Earl or Countess, Marquis or Marchioness, and finally, Duke or Duchess. Once you achieve that rank, you may then challenge your very own chatelaines. I suppose you could call them the Elite Four of our battle chateau for comparison. If you can defeat them in battle, you will receive a plaque, your picture on the wall, and a fabulous prize. So this is a tournament in itself? Austin asked, his voice filled with excitement. "Yes," Hennessy replied, his voice filled with pride. "We even have gym leaders battle here occasionally. The higher rank you become, the more recognition you will receive, and the more you may capture the attention of a gym trainer or even someone of the Elite Four." "I have another question, Hennessy," Yellow said, her voice filled with curiosity. "Achieving the rank of Duchess seems like a lot of work to do for one day. How do people do it?" Hennessy chuckled softly. "Oh ho ho ho! Dear Dame, of course, we don't expect you to do this all in one day or even in the same city. There are 5 different battle chateaux across the Kanto region. There is one here in Cerulean City, one in Viridian City, one in Celadon City, another in Saffron City, and finally, there is one in Fuchsia City. Whatever rank you achieve here will carry over with you to any battle chateau in the region. You will be presented with a different ribbon and title card every time you receive a new rank for confirmation." Yellow breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh, good," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. She couldn't wait to start trying to ascend in the ranks, hoping to impress Austin by showing that she was a good trainer. "So without further ado, are you ready to begin the tournament?" Hennessy asked, his voice filled with excitement. Yellow nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm ready," she said, her voice filled with confidence. Chapter number 26: Yellow's first battle. "So without further ado, are you ready to begin the tournament?" Hennessy asked, his voice ringing with excitement as he looked at Yellow expectantly. Yellow, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement, nodded her head, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm ready," she said, her voice filled with confidence. "Wonderful!" Hennessy exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with delight. "In that case, please follow me to the battle hall where you will face your first opponent. There will be 10 other trainers participating in this tournament. It will be played out like a standard tournament. Each trainer will face one other opponent. The winner gets to move on to the next round while the loser is out. This goes on until only 2 trainers are left. The winner gets to move up to the next rank. Do you understand?" Yellow nodded, her heart beating rapidly in her chest. She couldn't wait to begin her journey to becoming a higher-ranked trainer. Hennessy led the group to the battle hall, which was a very large room with a deep red carpet spanning across the whole room. Unlike the rest of the battle chateau, the room was rather bare, with only the various pictures that lined the walls serving as decorations. Austin assumed that it was because of the intense Pokémon battles that took place in this room, and the staff didn't want to risk anything being broken. "Madam," Hennessy said, turning to Yellow. "You will be part of the first tier, so you will be battling first in our single battle. Your opponent will be a boy by the name of Joshua. Good luck with your match." "Do we stay here to watch her battle?" Brock asked, his voice filled with concern. "Of course, sir," Hennessy answered, giving a bow. He then turned and left the room. Yellow could feel her hands beginning to shake, and she nervously fiddled with them. Austin noticed this and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Yellow," he said, his voice filled with encouragement. "Just stay calm and have trust in your Pokémon, and you'll do great." Brock nodded in agreement, and Yellow gave a small smile, feeling grateful for the support of her friends. "Thanks, guys," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I think that must be your opponent, Yellow," Brock said, pointing to the other end of the room. Austin and Yellow turned, and sure enough, a young boy around their age was walking into the room. He had short, neatly combed brown hair, and a determined look on his face. He didn't look prepared to lose. "Go get him, Yellow," Austin said, giving her a friendly pat on the back. He, Brock, and Pikachu then went to the edge of the room to watch the battle. The judge, dressed in a crisp white shirt and black pants, stood in the center of the room. "This is an official match of the Battle Chateau tournament," he announced in a loud, clear voice. "The match shall be one-on-one. Whoever wins shall advance further in the tournament. Whoever loses shall be eliminated. Before the match begins, may the beau bow and the dame curtsy to one another." Yellow smiled at the boy opposite of her and did a light curtsy. The boy gave a smile back and bowed as the judge raised his flags and declared the start of the match. "This match between Yellow and Joshua will now start. There will be no time limit. Begin!" he yelled, his voice echoing throughout the spacious battle hall. Yellow took a deep breath and exhaled, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. She was determined to win this match and move on to the next round. She reached for her Pokeball and called out to her Pokémon. "Dottie, come on out!" she yelled, throwing the Pokeball towards the center of the room. The Pokeball opened with a flash of light and out came Doduo, the two-headed bird Pokémon. It let out a triumphant cry, its two heads bobbing up and down in excitement. On the other side of the room, Joshua also reached for his Pokeball. "Tyrogue, I choose you!" he yelled, tossing the Pokeball into the air. With a burst of light, Tyrogue appeared, its compact and muscular body tensed and ready for battle. Tyrogue was a fighting-type Pokémon, known for its speed and power. Yellow's heart raced as she looked across the room at her opponent. "Be careful of its strength, Dottie," she called out to her Pokémon. Doduo nodded in response, its two heads focused on Tyrogue. The sound of shuffling feet filled the room as both Pokémon took their positions, ready to battle. The room was eerily quiet as everyone held their breath, waiting for the first move. "Tyrogue. Use Mach Punch. Go!" Yellow watched in amazement as the small, muscular Pokémon leaped forward with incredible speed, its fist glowing with energy. "Yellow, say a command!" Austin exclaimed. "Oh, right. Dottie, dodge it!" she called out, but it was too late. Tyrogue's fist connected with Doduo with a loud crack, sending it flying backwards. The sound echoed throughout the large battle hall, the only decorations being the various pictures that aligned on the wall. "Dottie, are you okay?" Yellow asked, rushing over to her fallen Pokémon. Doduo slowly rose to its feet, but it was obvious that it was in pain. Yellow could see the determination in its eyes, however, and knew that it was ready to continue the battle. "That's great, Tyrogue," Joshua said with a smile. "Now use high jump kick." Tyrogue leaped into the air, its body glowing with energy as it prepared to deliver a powerful kick. "Dodge it, Dottie!" Yellow called out desperately. Doduo tried to leap out of the way, but Tyrogue was too quick. It connected with a devastating high jump kick, sending Doduo crashing to the ground. Yellow's heart sank as she watched her Pokémon struggle to get back to its feet. She could see that it was badly hurt and knew that it was unlikely to last much longer in the battle. "Finish this off with rapid spin, Tyrogue," Joshua commanded. Tyrogue began to spin rapidly, its body becoming a blur as it closed in on Doduo. "Try a quick attack, Dottie!" Yellow called out frantically. Doduo took a deep breath, gathering energy for its quick attack, but Tyrogue was too fast. It collided with Doduo, sending it flying backwards and crashing to the ground with a thud. Doduo lay there, unmoving, as the judge declared, Doduo is unable to battle. The winner is Joshua. Yellow has been eliminated from today's tournament. Yellow looked to the ground, her eyes filled with tears. She had lost her first battle in the tournament and never even managed to land a hit. Good job, Dottie, she whispered as she returned Doduo to its Pokeball. She was disappointed in herself for letting her Pokémon get hurt. If only she was a better trainer, then Dottie's efforts would have been paid off. If only she had given a different command. Why did she think that it would be an easy win? As Yellow tried to make her way out of the battle hall, Austin and Brock could see the pain and sadness etched on her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she tried to escape the reality of the loss. Austin and Brock shared a concerned look, knowing all too well the weight of defeat. Brock, do you think I should go talk to her? Austin asked, breaking the silence. I think it would be best, Brock replied. She's known you for a long time, and your words might carry more weight with her. However, as they approached Yellow, she quickly put on a brave face and turned to them with a forced smile. Guys, let's go to the market and get what we need. I'm just feeling a bit tired, so I think I'll go to the Pokémon Center and get my Pokémon healed. Her words were a stark contrast to the pain they had just witnessed, but Austin and Brock could see that she was trying to be strong. Chapter 28, Chapter number 27, Nugget Bridge Challenge. Yellow sat on the balcony of her room at the Pokémon Center, staring out into the moonlit night. In her hand was the Pokeball that held her beloved Doduo, Dottie. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the button that would release her Pokémon. Suddenly, she felt a soft nudge at her ankle and looked down to see her Weedle, Kitty, slowly crawling towards her. Yellow scooped the little Pokémon up, cradling it in her arms as she spoke softly to it. I don't know what I did wrong today, she said, her voice filled with uncertainty. I thought I had trained enough, but I still lost the battle. Kitty looked up at Yellow with its big, round eyes, and Yellow hugged it tighter. I'm sorry, I let you down, she whispered. But Kitty just chirped softly, offering its love and support. Yellow felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Thank you, Kitty, she said, kissing the top of its head. With newfound confidence, Yellow finally pressed the button on Dottie's Pokeball. The red beam of light shot out, and Dottie appeared on the balcony, looking tired but happy to be released. Hey Dottie, Yellow said, giving the Pokémon a warm smile. I'm sorry we lost today. I promise to do better next time. Dottie simply cooed softly, its eyes shining with trust in its trainer. Yellow hugged both of her Pokémon, feeling a sense of pride and love for them. Under the silvery light of the moon, the Pokémon Center's balcony provided a serene refuge for Yellow, who found herself deep in contemplation. Her two faithful Pokémon, ever loyal, remained by her side. The soft murmur of the night's breeze was interrupted as Austin emerged onto the balcony, taking a seat nearby. An awkward silence enveloped the pair, the quiet tension palpable in the air. Seeking to alleviate the discomfort, Austin endeavored to engage in small talk. So, how have you been? He inquired, his voice laced with a strained cheerfulness. Raising her eyes to meet his, Yellow's response was barely audible. I've been okay. The uncertainty in her gaze did not go unnoticed by Austin, who recognized the need to offer solace. I found this drawing notebook on the table, Austin said, directing Yellow's attention to the book in his hands. Her eyes widened in surprise, betraying her interest. You know, you really have a talent for drawing Pokémon. Austin's praise was sincere, and even Pikachu chimed in, nodding in agreement. Pika, Pi. A blush crept across Yellow's cheeks as she reflected on her past. I never had friends my age in Viridian City, so I had nothing else to do but draw. Do you like to draw? Of course, I love it. The sadness in her eyes returned as she posed a question to Austin. Ash, if I focused more on training my Pokémon, would I have won today? Austin contemplated her question, his gaze drifting to the sky. I don't know. Oh. Seeking to encourage her, Austin offered words of wisdom. Yellow, don't dwell too much on the past. What we could have done, what we should have done, it's all behind us now. Look to the future, and instead of pondering what we could have done, let's focus on what we should do. Yeah, you're right. Austin stepped closer, plucking Yellow's straw hat from her head. Hey! She protested, but Austin continued unfazed. Tomorrow morning, I am going to train. I will be expecting the future Duchess Yellow to be there. With a meaningful look, he held out the straw hat. The message was clear to Yellow as she took her hat back and used it to hide her blushing face. As Austin turned to leave, Yellow called out, her eyes glistening in the moonlight. Ash, can I become as strong as you? She asked, uncertainty still lingering in her voice. Austin's smile was warm and genuine. No, Yellow, he replied. Yellow's heart raced as his words sank in, but Austin continued, his figure illuminated by the soft lunar glow. You can be stronger. Yellow's confidence swelled with his reassurance. She watched with admiration as Austin prepared to depart. He glanced back at her, catching sight of her rosy cheeks. While he knew he had just deepened Yellow's crush on him, causing him no small amount of consternation, he also knew that it was worth it. He had helped restore her faith in herself. Those words that Austin had said to her were the truth. While Yellow didn't like to fight with Pokémon, she was one of the few characters in the manga who had defeated Red in a Pokémon battle. Next day, afternoon. Whoa, Austin said in surprise as he was standing right by the Nugget Bridge with how wide it was, and man it was long. So this is the Nugget Bridge, hey. Yellow gave a nod as she looked around curiously. I wonder where the first trainer is. He's a bit further up the road. A familiar voice said as Austin frowned. Hey, Ashy boy. Austin and Yellow turned to see Gary leaning against a tree near the Nugget Bridge sipping a cup of lemonade. Gary, Austin said as Yellow didn't know who that was. Man, you're still struggling along back here? Gary asked with a cocky smile. I'm doing great, I've caught a large amount of strong and smart Pokémon and I have 2 badges, what about you? I'm training for the second gym right now, Austin said, not caring about how many Pokémon Gary said he caught. And I have strong Pokémon of my own. Training? Please, the Cerulean gym is a joke. Gary said, laughing. Man, you must be struggling if you're considering training for that. How about a battle to prove it? Austin asked, holding Rattata's Pokeball only for Gary to scoff. Sorry, but I don't battle people who are struggling. Gary mocked as he walked past Austin. Smell ya later, Ashy boy. Austin glared at his retreating form as Yellow gave him a curious look. Ash, who was that? Gary, he started the same day as me and already thinks he's the greatest, Austin said with a hint of distaste. He's also Professor Oak's grandson. Yellow blinked in surprise before they heard another voice. Hey, you here for the Nugget Bridge challenge? A voice asked as they looked to see a bug catcher with a Pokeball. The name's Kale and I'm the first trainer. I'm here for the challenge, Austin confirmed, sending Rattata out. How many Pokémon are you going to use? 4, Kale said, sending his first one out, a Caterpie. Rattata frowned at this, not liking that the only Pokémon she fought so far were bug types and weak ones at that. But she got ready, remembering how good of a fighter Butterfree was when it was a Caterpie. String shot, Kale ordered. Quick attack. As the Caterpie shot the silky string, Rattata moved quickly before the small rat slammed into the green caterpillar Pokémon, sending him rolling and knocked out. Kale quickly returned him and sent out a Weedle. Careful, Rattata, Austin warned as the rat gave a nod, not wanting to be poisoned. Poison sting. Needles shot out of the Weedle's mouth as the Rattata moved quickly to dodge them. If they weren't on the bridge, Austin would have ordered a dig, since that was the only move that Rattata had that would be effective, but that wouldn't work. Then Austin grinned. Quick attack to get close and hit him with Iron Tail. Rattata grinned and moved her tail glowing before she swung it, slamming the Weedle on the head and knocking her out. Whoa, that's a strong Rattata, Kale commented as Austin grinned. Thank you. All Kale had left were a Metapod and a Kakuna, but Rattata made short work of them as she looked a little winded but not completely exhausted. Great job, Rattata, Austin said as the small rat walked back to him. Ta. Rattata looked bored, causing Austin to smirk. You do know that I'll be using you in the Vermilion Gym, right? Austin asked, gaining her complete attention. You have an advantage there with your dig attack. Rattata now looked energized and ready to train some more as Austin returned her, knowing that she would dive headfirst into training when they finish the Nugget Bridge challenge. I did my best, Kale said with a chuckle. Even if it was a Rattata, I have no regrets. Same with fighting your bug Pokémon, you'll be stronger when they become Butterfree and Beedrill, Austin said as he walked by them with Yellow right behind him. Not bad for a warm-up though. Checking his Pokédex as it was beeping, Austin was pleased to see that Rattata learned Hyper Fang. Chapter 29, Chapter number 28, Evolution. Rattata now looked energized and ready to train some more as Austin returned her, knowing that she would dive headfirst into training when they finished the Nugget Bridge challenge. I did my best, Kale said with a chuckle. Even if it was a Rattata, I have no regrets. Same with fighting your bug Pokémon, you'll be stronger when they become Butterfree and Beedrill, Austin said as he walked by them with Yellow right behind him. Not bad for a warm-up though. Checking his Pokédex as it was beeping, Austin was pleased to see that Rattata learned Hyper Fang. Is Kakuna the evolved form of Weedle? Yellow asked a bit hesitantly, causing Austin to raise an eyebrow as he put the Pokédex up. Yes, why? Does Kitty have to evolve? Now Austin looked surprised before remembering how she reacted to Ratty evolving in the manga. Chances are she looked a bit into evolution after seeing Butterfree evolve from Metapod. Well, most trainers evolve their Pokémon without a second thought, but some Pokémon like being who they are, Austin said, scratching the side of his cheek as Pikachu gave a nod, agreeing to that. If you don't want Kitty to evolve, that's fine, but it may be a good idea to see what she wants. Yellow looked away in thought before the second trainer, a girl wearing a white shirt and blue skirt, walked up. You beat Kale? She asked in surprise before grinning. The name's Allie and I'm the second trainer of Nugget Bridge. With that said, she sent out a small blue Pokémon with leaves hanging on its head. Oddish. The small reddish Pokémon greeted as Austin saw Ariana's gloom for a second before shaking his head and pulling out a different Pokeball. Pidgeotto goes, Austin said, sending the bird Pokémon out as she cried with defiance as the Oddish took a step back in fear. Allie, who was confident, now looked nervous. Gust, Austin said as the Pidgeotto gave a cry and began blowing the Oddish across the bridge, causing her to tumble and roll. Oddish, use absorb. Allie said as the Oddish pushed herself up and vines shot out of its head to absorb energy from Pidgeotto, who took to the air to avoid it. Steel wing to slice through them, Austin said with a grin as the Pidgeotto flew through the vines, cutting them up as it scored a hit on the Oddish, and this time she stayed down. Allie frowned as she returned the Oddish and sent a Bellsprout out. Gust, Austin said, not pulling any punches, but the attack had more force, causing him to look confused. That was Twister. Now Austin was grinning because two of his Pokémon just learned some new moves as the Bellsprout was knocked out easily. Allie gave a resigned sigh and sent out her last Pokémon. It was a Pidgey. The small bird froze on seeing Pidgeotto, who didn't look too impressed. Quick attack. That was all Austin said before the Pidgey was knocked out. Man, these battles are easy. Austin thought about returning Pidgeotto as Allie accepted her loss. I expected it to be a lot harder. Austin sighed before the third trainer, a boy wearing a hat, yellow shirt, and blue shorts, had his arms crossed with a smirk. The name's Timmy, this is where your winning streak ends, Timmy said as Austin shrugged. Go Sandshrew. As the small yellow armadillo Pokémon came out, Austin grinned and sent Spearow out. Scratch. Timmy ordered as the Sandshrew moved. Aerial wing. It was too fast for Timmy to see as his Sandshrew was on the other side of the bridge, out cold. Not one to give up despite seeing how badly he was outmatched, Timmy sent out an Akans as it hissed. Spearow, however, cawed defiantly at the snake before he began to glow, surprising everyone. Sweet, Austin said, seeing what was happening as Spearow got bigger, and when the glow died down, he was replaced by a large, brown feathered bird Pokémon with a red mohawk. Taking out his Pokédex, Austin began to scan his new Fearow. Fearow, the beak Pokémon. Fearow is recognized by its long neck and elongated beak. They are conveniently shaped for catching prey in soil or water. It deftly moves its long and skinny beak to pluck prey. This Pokémon has learned the move Mirror Move. Fearow, however, didn't wait for an attack from Austin as he flew forward and slammed into the Akans with a peck that knocked him out. Austin was a bit surprised by that, only to see Fearow look away from him, causing Austin to groan. Oh no! Seeing what was happening, Austin returned him, making a mental note to try and work on that attitude problem that Fearow got. The fourth trainer was a girl named Riley, who used two Nidoran, one male and the other female. Butterfree didn't have any problems with them as his confusion attacks were the perfect counter for them due to them being poison types. He did learn Gust, but that was about it. Finally, they were at the fifth and final trainer, who was a camper boy named Ethan, and he sent out a Mankey while Austin had Pikachu out. Low kick. Ethan ordered as the Mankey moved quickly. Block with Iron Tail. Austin said as Pikachu did that, now use Thunder Shock. The Mankey spasmed as it stumbled back before Pikachu tackled it with a quick attack, sending him rolling back. Mankey, use Karate Chop. Ethan said as Mankey shook his head and ran forward, his fist glowing. Wait for it, Austin ordered as Pikachu stood there, his ear twitching slightly. Now use Iron Tail to jump. Pikachu did so, causing Mankey to miss before the electric mouse grinned as a small orb began to power up on his tail, surprising everyone. Electro Ball. Austin thought in surprise. But Pikachu never learned that until Unova. Deciding not to question it, Austin grinned as the small orb slammed into Mankey, causing him to collapse, knocked out as Ethan sighed and returned the pig monkey. "Man, you are a machine," Ethan commented as he did see the other battles. "We barely did anything to you." "It was still great training for my team," Austin said with a smile. "Especially since they all learned new moves and Spearow evolved." Unknown to all of them, someone was watching from a distance as he was given a gold nugget for winning. Chapter 30, Chapter number 29. Paul. Austin grinned as the small orb slammed into Mankey, causing him to collapse, knocked out as Ethan sighed and returned the pig monkey. "Man, you are a machine," Ethan commented as he did see the other battles. "We barely did anything to you." "It was still great training for my team," Austin said with a smile. "Especially since they all learned new moves and Spearow evolved." Unknown to all of them, someone was watching from a distance as he was given a gold nugget for winning. 5 strong Pokémon and most likely has some good money. A female voice muttered as the binoculars came down to show a brunette 11-year-old girl wearing a black dress as she smirked. "Easy pickings." 0. Brock was sulking as he made his way to the Poke Mart. His plan to watch the Sensational Sisters swim show was denied due to them being out of tickets for the next few weeks. Yes, he did know the sisters personally due to them being fellow gym leaders, and he has tried asking them out on multiple occasions whenever there was a meeting between leaders with little to no success, but he's never seen any of their shows before, and now he wouldn't since their next show would be after they're gone. Might as well get some supplies. Brock thought as he entered the Poke Mart, only to pause as a poster caught his attention. Kanto's first regional breeder competition. Must obtain 3 medals from various breeder centers. There was a list of towns that showed where these medals must be obtained as Brock shakily looked it over. It would be a major step toward his dream of becoming a breeder if he could do this, and the closest one was in Vermilion City in 1 month. Austin and Yellow turned around from the bridge to get back to the Pokémon Center to have their Pokémon healed, but along the way, they came face to face with a trainer. The duo took in the boy's appearance. He had thick light purple hair and was wearing a black and purple jacket over a gray t-shirt and also wearing dark gray pants. There was also something about his eyes that made Yellow uneasy. They seemed so cold. But Austin was shell-shocked as he immediately recognized one of his favorite characters in the anime. "Paul." The boy said nothing and resumed his walking. "Hey, did you compete in the Nugget Bridge Challenge?" The boy replied rather coldly, finally stopping to look at Ash. Yellow was surprised by the boy's rudeness. "Yes, Ash here defeated everyone with ease." Austin snapped out of his daze as he heard Yellow's words and turned to Paul, expecting him to be challenged to a battle. The boy glared at Ash and resumed walking. "Fine. Whatever," he replied. Austin was surprised as Paul didn't do anything. "Can you be any ruder?" Yellow huffed as Austin chuckled. Austin and Yellow entered the Pokémon Center as they handed their Pokémon to be checked out and healed. After a few minutes, Nurse Joy returned with a set of Pokeballs and a Weepin' Bell. Nurse Joy set the Pokeballs and Weepin' Bell down and called out, "Paul, your Pokémon are healed and are ready to go." The duo turned to where she was looking and got a surprised look on their face. It was the purple-haired boy from earlier. The boy known as Paul walked up to Nurse Joy. He did not even spare the group a glance despite them staring at him. He gave no indication he even met them before. "Thank you, Nurse Joy," Paul said and gave a bow before Nurse Joy returned to the back room. Paul took his Pokeballs and glared at his Weepin' Bell. "What's wrong with you? You couldn't even knock out a single of his Pokémon, and the worst part is you were knocked out after only 1 attack. There's no excuse why you lost with your type advantage," he said rather harshly. Paul's Weepin' Bell looked down shamefully before Paul sighed and continued, "I captured you in the wild because you seemed like a strong Pokémon, but you have yet to show me any real power since you haven't won a single match yet. You are going to have to battle a lot better if you want to stay with me." The Weepin' Bell looked deeply hurt and was on the verge of tears before Yellow stepped in. "Hold on a second. Don't be so hard on it. Weepin' Bell tried its best, didn't it? As its trainer, that should be good enough for you," she said. Paul turned to Yellow and glared. "I would appreciate it if you mind your own business," he said. "All I'm saying is that Pokémon always try their best for their trainers. Scolding them like that after every loss doesn't do them any favors," Yellow said with a hint of anger in her voice. "That's all fine, but this weapon bell has such low stats that it should be thankful that I'm training it in the first place, Paul scowled with disdain. What do you mean by low stats? Austin asked curiously. Seriously? Didn't you know that you can scan a Pokémon with your Pokédex after you capture it to learn what moves it knows as well as its stats? That's the only way to get the best type of Pokémon around. You capture a few types of the same Pokémon and scan their stats. Keep the best one and release the others. That's how I train, Paul said. Hearing this, Austin was shell-shocked that he had missed so many things with the Pokédex, but why didn't he ever see those stats displayed? I have got to have a word with Professor Oak about this. Yellow grit her teeth. She couldn't believe this guy. Well, you know what I say? Any Pokémon that you train can be strong. No matter what their stats are. She said angrily. Paul put his hands in his pockets and smirked. What's so funny? Yellow asked. You and your naive way of training Pokémon. If you always capture the strongest type of Pokémon around, it saves a lot of headaches later on if they are already strong enough, he said. Austin frowned while he found Paul's attitude entertaining when he watched the anime, but in real life, his attitude was extremely annoying, and his ideals of training, while he understood them, now as a trainer himself he found those ideals revolting. How long have you been a trainer? Paul asked Yellow. About 11 days, Yellow responded. You should have at least captured 4 Pokémon by now. Why don't we have a Pokémon battle to figure out who's right? Paul suggested. You're on. Yellow said with fire in her eyes, but it died down quickly. But I only have 2 Pokémon right now instead of 4. Are you kidding me? Forget the battle. I'm out of here, Paul said with contempt. He then returned his weapon bell to its Pokeball and walked out of the Pokémon Center, not even giving the duo another glance. Chapter 31, Chapter number 30. This is not a game. Brock was watching the mock battle between Austin and Yellow as he had Onyx out, cleaning the crevices between the rocks on his body to practice for the breeding competition. Austin and Yellow were both pretty supportive of his choice in entering, although he swore that Austin was keeping his jaw from dropping as if the idea surprised him. Now that he thought about it, Austin seems to be a multitude of mysteries. There were times he would just act differently depending on a situation or mutter something that confuses him but makes sense later. And then there were times he looked completely lost in thought. But he was a good battler, pretty good for only being a rookie. String shot. Yellow ordered as Kitty was trying to hit Butterfree, who kept dodging. Gust. Austin countered as Butterfree blew the Weedle back a bit. Come on Yellow, you can do better than this. It's only been 2 days since his Nugget Bridge challenge and Austin was at the end of his patience. Not because of Yellow, she was getting the hang of battling. But it was because of Firo. He congratulated Firo after healing the team, only for Firo to ignore him. Thinking it was just his pride, Austin didn't do anything but smile. Then Firo attacked Pidgeotto, causing him to return the big bird. Since then every time he let Firo out, he attacked him. Yellow is pretty limited in this fight. Austin said as the only moves Kitty knew were Poison Sting and String Shot before the Stinger Pokémon was unconscious, much to Yellow's dismay. Alright, that's enough for now, Austin said as Yellow healed Kitty again. Kitty lasted a bit longer against Butterfree this time, but I think she just needs to rest now. Yellow gave a nod as Brock called over. If you want I can show you how to brush her. He offered as Yellow smiled and walked over, leaving Austin to his thoughts as he had Firo's Pokeball again. Pie. Pikachu was on his shoulder, recognizing the Pokeball easily due to Firo's scent being on it. I just don't understand, Austin muttered, holding the Pokeball. I helped Firo in getting stronger, isn't that what he wanted? Pikachu came near Austin with a brush in between his paws. Suddenly it clicked for Austin. I have only used Firo for battles. I never bonded with him, I always congratulated him when he won or lost, but I never did pet him as I did with Pidgeotto, Pikachu, and Butterfree. He never did that for Rattata as well, and the girl was annoyed with some of her battles. How long before she stops listening as well? Damn it, this isn't the game. Austin told himself, remembering that he only battled in the game, and never got along with the Pokémon. Here it's different and he forgot about it. But it might already be too late with how Firo won't even listen to him now. It's only because Pikachu is always out as well as Butterfree and Pidgeotto's friendly personalities that he never had a problem with them. Looking over, Austin saw Onyx looking happy as Brock cleaned him, and Yellow was brushing Kitty, who despite not having any fur, looked happy. No more. Austin thought, knowing that it may be a long time before Firo does listen to him, but he wasn't going to give up on him. With that in mind, Austin walked up to Brock. "Hey, do you have any advice on brushing flying types? You going to brush Pidgeotto?" Brock asked with a raised brow. "No," Austin said, shaking his head. "Fearow." Brock and Yellow paused as they looked at him. Are you sure, Ash?" he asked, not so sure about that given how Fearow was these last 2 days. Even Pikachu looked a bit hesitant at the idea. "Yet. It's something I should have done with him when he was a Spearow," Austin said to him. "Well, I would start by keeping the feathers straight." Brock began after seeing that Austin wasn't going to change his mind about this. Flying types also love it when their talons and beaks are cleaned as well, but you'll have to be careful with how temperamental Fearow is. "I will," Austin said as he smiled. "Pikachu will help me if something happens." "Shoo." Pikachu gave a nod as sparks came off of his cheeks. "If you want, I can help you bond with him," Yellow offered, and Austin knew she meant with her abilities. "Thank you, but it wouldn't mean anything if I don't bond with Fearow as other trainers do," Austin said with a smile. Plus he'd rather not rely on Yellow's abilities on this journey. Well, that and there was the chance that Fearow would attack Yellow as well. "Call if you need a hand," Brock said, handing the necessary tools to Austin. "Got it," Austin said, walking away from the group mostly because he didn't know if Fearow would attempt to eat Kitty or not as he sent the bird out. "Fear!" Fearow called out as he spread his wings before pausing at seeing no opponent, causing him to turn and glare at Austin. "Hey, Fearow," Austin said, trying to imagine how as a Spearow he did perch on his shoulder a bit. "You ready to get brushed?" Fearow gave him a deadpan look as Austin shook his head at how weak that sounded. Fear. Fearow just turned his head away. Taking that as a sign that Fearow didn't care one way or the other, Austin approached him and did one stroke from the brush on the wing. The wing, however, smacked him and sent him tumbling to the ground as Fearow glared. Pikachu, who was knocked off of Austin's shoulder, returned the glare and prepared a thunder shock only for Austin to shake his head. "Fearow, I'm not going to give up here," Austin said, only for Fearow to slowly walk away with his talons, putting some distance between him and Austin. Not taking no for an answer, Austin got closer and Fearow had enough as his wings began to glow and swung a steel wing at Austin. Thankfully Pikachu saw that and shot in, blocking with an iron tail, but Fearow was strong enough to knock the mouse into Austin, sending him to the ground again. Brock and Yellow saw that and both stood up. Yellow held onto Kitty while Brock's Onyx got ready to intervene as Austin pushed himself up. "Ash, I think you should stop," Brock said in worry. "Sorry, but stopping isn't something I'm good at," Austin said as he remembered how back home he never stopped on anything, even if it made him miserable. His penchant for not stopping pushed a few people away from him though, as whenever he does that he only focuses on the one task in front of him. Chapter 32, Chapter number 31, Scamming a Scammer. His penchant for not stopping pushed a few people away from him though, as whenever he does that he only focuses on the one task in front of him. "You are an idiot," Austin could hear in his head. 4 years ago. An 11-year-old Austin was on his back panting as a 14-year-old teen stood over him shaking his head. "Austin, you are an idiot." "I heard you the first time," Austin said, glaring at his older brother who had blonde hair and green eyes. "Doesn't make it any less true," the boy said, helping Austin up. "What was it this time?" Austin looked down. "I made a bet that I could outrun some of the track members. And they left you in the dust." The teen sighed. "You thought you could do that when you sit around playing video games all day." "I could have," Austin muttered despite it sounding stupid. "Come on, Leroy, you know I'm quick on my feet." "Yet at a short distance." Leroy Kevin deadpanned. "Those guys beat you the moment you started. You need to do things in moderation." Present time. Austin shook his head to get out of his memories as Fearow kept glaring before Leroy's words echoed in his head. "You need to do things in moderation." Sighing, Austin put the brush down. "Okay, we'll come back to brushing you later," he said as Fearow looked away. "That's probably a good idea," Brock said, a bit relieved that nothing bad happened there. Austin sat down as he stared at Fearow's pokeball. He screwed up. One step at a time, Austin reminded himself before he sent Rattata out. "Pikachu, Rattata, are you guys ready to train? I have some combinations you guys would love." Rattata gained a smirk as she preferred sparring with Pikachu in response to fighting bug types. Pikachu returned the smirk. 0. Later that evening, Austin was in his room with all of his Pokémon except for Fearow out, the main reason being that it was too small for the bird to fit in. At the moment he was brushing Rattata, thinking that he wasn't going to make the same mistake he did with Firo again. Rattata seemed to enjoy it as Pikachu was curled up on the bed, Butterfree was on the dresser and Pidgeotto was on the top of a chair, her talons resting on it. "You guys are getting stronger by the day," Austin said as he continued brushing Rattata. "We'll be ready for the gym tomorrow." He didn't know how many Pokémon the gym would allow him to use, it could be all of them like when he challenged Brock, or it could be the regular rules. But the main Pokémon he would use would be Pikachu, Rattata, and Pidgeotto. Butterfree won him his first batch and Firo wouldn't even listen to him. Just 5 more days. Austin thought, remembering how they would challenge the gym after their week of training. 0. Early the next morning, Austin was by himself as he moved past the Nugget Bridge, heading to the Cerulean Cape where he fought some more trainers. He left a message with Nurse Joy so Brock and Yellow wouldn't worry about him. There were no bug catchers, so he was able to have his Pokémon battle more efficiently than before. The Pokémon that these trainers had were Geodudes, Machops, Nidorans, Oddish, and Bellsprout. One hiker even had an Onix as well. Rattata took to these challenges happily as they were a lot more fun than fighting Caterpie and Weedle. Pidgeotto looked to be growing a bit in size to Austin's surprise, but she was also showing a lot of strength in these fights. Butterfree dominated the fights with his confusion and gust attacks. Pikachu was kind of struggling as he had some disadvantages with the various grass types, but he was showing how strong he was and he finally managed to pull off the counter shield after some trial and error. "Alright," Austin said as Pikachu landed on the ground after taking out someone who had a Nidorino. "Nicely done, Pikachu." "Shoo." Pikachu looked pleased with himself. That was when they heard clapping. "Bravo, bravo," a girl's voice said, causing them to turn around to see a brunette wearing a black dress clapping her hands where she wore white gloves. "Nicely done." Pikachu looked curiously as he saw Austin tense on seeing the girl. "I know this girl," Austin thought, trying not to look suspicious. "Her name is either Green or Blue, the name varies from what version of the manga she was in." "Thanks," Austin said, keeping a wary eye on her due to how she was a thief in the manga. The girl however saw the wary look and gave a pout. "Oh come on, what's with the look?" "Sorry, but who are you?" Austin asked as Pikachu jumped on his shoulder. "Just someone who was passing by when I saw your battle. You have a strong Pikachu," the girl said, causing Pikachu to look pleased. "You must be a great trainer." "Well, he was my first Pokémon," Austin said, reaching up and scratching Pikachu's head before the girl crossed her arms and looked sad. "It's too bad that you aren't using him at his max potential." Austin frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked before she grinned and pulled out a box of items. "These items are standard equipment for any great Pokémon trainer and they can boost their abilities," the girl said, holding them out as Austin recognized this from the manga. Now ordinarily he would have called her out on that, but a mischievous thought entered his head and Austin gave a smile. Sure, why not? When he wasn't looking, the girl had a predatory smirk. "Hook, line, and sinker," she thought as she adopted a grateful smile when Austin looked back. "So what are these items anyway?" Austin asked, taking a notepad to look as if he was going to write them down as she went into an explanation of the attack plus and the X defend. "And that will be 4,000 poke dollars," the girl said at the end of the explanation. "That many?" Austin asked in surprise as the girl gave a nod. "Well, of course. She said in a sing-song tone. "These are top quality items after all." "If you say so," Austin said, giving her the poke as she handed him the items. "You won't be disappointed," the girl said as she ran off, leaving Austin to smirk as he pulled out what looked to be poke. "But I think you will be when you find out I just pickpocketed you," Austin said while Pikachu gave him a look of disbelief. Austin smirked as he looked at Pikachu, who had recreated the infamous surprise Pikachu face. "What? These items are fake and she was going to scam us, so I scammed her back." Pikachu tilted his head to the side before looking into the box and frowning as he saw that the items were indeed fake. "Besides, she has the 4,000 I gave her," Austin said, counting the ones that he took to show 5,000. "So I didn't completely rob her." It was a familiar scream. Was that Misty? Austin thought in surprise. Chapter 33, Chapter number 32, Cerulean Cape. Austin frowned as he ran towards the scream. He did owe Misty for saving him from the Spearow flock. It took a few minutes before making it to the end of the route. "Hey, so Bill doesn't live in Cerulean Cape?" Austin thought at seeing a lack of a cottage. Then he should be living near Vermilion like in the anime. Austin thought while keeping an eye out for Misty before they heard footsteps and turned. Pikachu jumped off of Austin's shoulders as Misty collided with him. Ow, Austin muttered as Misty shook her head from the impact. Wait, it's you, Misty said in surprise at running into him. Both literally and figuratively. A cry caused Misty to jump off of him in fear as Austin shakily pushed himself up only to see a Pokémon land in the clearing, glaring at Misty. This Pokémon was a giant green Pokémon with blade-like hands and buzzing wings as it glared. A Scyther? Austin asked as they weren't normal around here. Creepy bug, Misty muttered backing up as Austin looked from her to the Scyther. What did you do to piss him off? Nothing, he attacked me out of nowhere. Misty snapped at him. Rolling his eyes, Austin looked at Pikachu. You ready, buddy? Shoo. Pikachu ran out into the field as Scyther gave a cry and shot at him at a quick speed. Electric impact, Austin said as Pikachu covered himself in electricity and surged forward. It was kind of a ripoff of Volt Tackle, but it wasn't as powerful as it was. But it did enough damage at this point. Scyther winced as the attack hit before using Slash to knock Pikachu back as its claw glowed. Watch out for its Brick Break. Misty called out as Austin looked surprised. Brick Break wasn't a naturally learned move for Scyther to learn, it had to be taught. Giving a nod, Austin focused. Dodge like we practiced. Pikachu gave a nod as he was doing jumps and flips to dodge the Brick Breaks left and right with the Scyther snarling as the electric mouse kept dodging the attacks. After a bit, Scyther stopped and glowed before he began moving faster and finally landed a hit on Pikachu, knocking him back. Agility, hey? Electro Ball really won't be effective. Austin thought before he decided as Scyther came in for an aerial ace. Counter Shield. It was stupid due to how Misty was right behind him and chances are he would be facing her instead of the sisters, but this Scyther was tough. Pikachu gave a nod as they worked on that this last week and began to spin around on his back, letting out sparks of electricity as Scyther was unable to get close. The Mantis went flying back only to stop as electricity surged through him. Yes, he's paralyzed. Austin thought with a grin. Static took effect. Good, Pikachu used Thundershock. Austin ordered as Pikachu focused and caught the Scyther in a field of electricity. He was now on one knee panting with static still in effect. With that done, Austin grinned and took out a Pokeball before throwing it and the Scyther was sucked in. The ball kept wiggling as Austin held his breath before it came to a stop making the familiar sound to show the capture. Alright, we got a Scyther. Austin had a grin. Bing. Suddenly the Pokédex began to beep as a recorded message played out. You have exceeded the number of Pokémon that should be kept by a trainer at all times. Please contact your sponsor Professor Oak and transfer your extra Pokémon to his range or your license as a Pokémon trainer would be terminated. Austin blinked a few times as he heard the message before looking at Scyther's Pokeball. Sure, it was another Pokémon weak to electric types, but Scyther was awesome, even more so when it evolves into a Scizor. Oh, thank goodness. Misty fell to her knees now that the bug was gone. You all right? Austin asked. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Ash right? Yup, and you're Misty? Misty gave a nod looking a little surprised. I didn't think you would remember. You saved me from the Spearow flock, of course, I remember, Austin said despite knowing the real reason. What are you doing out here? Fishing for more water Pokémon, Misty said standing up. You. Training for the Cerulean Gym, Austin said seeing Misty tense up but she quickly covered it up. Although some people told me that I didn't need to. What's that supposed to mean? Misty said in barely concealed anger. Well, I've just heard rumors about the strength, Austin said. But I like being sure, so I was going to train this week and challenge them next week. Oh, I can't believe them, Misty muttered under her breath. Those sisters of mine are the worst. Sisters? Austin asked taking advantage of that as Misty froze, not realizing she spoke out loud. You know the Cerulean sisters? Well, not really. Misty tried but she could see that she wasn't fooling him so she sighed. Yeah, I'm the fourth sensational sister. Austin got Misty to reveal the info herself so he wouldn't have to lie about outputting out new, then that would make you a gym leader. Austin grinned as Misty sighed. How strong are you compared to your sisters? Excuse me? Misty asked, her anger showing a bit again. You defeated a Spearow flock with one Pokémon if I'm correct, and you made it here by yourself as well, that shows you're strong, Austin said giving a grin. So can I battle you for the gym battle instead? Misty looked surprised by that as she frowned. After what seemed like hours, she spoke up. You said you were going to challenge them at the end of the week. 4 days after today, Austin said as Misty came to a decision. That'll give me enough time to see how they're handling the gym, Misty said, giving him a look. You have a deal, but I'm not going to go easy because you saved me from that Scyther. It would be an insult if you did go easy, Austin said with a smile. Plus I think we would be even considering you saved me from the Spearows. Misty gave a nod as she turned and walked away. I'll have to come up with a good strategy for her now that she saw one of the combo moves and the counter shield. Austin thought with his arms crossed. But that Scyther was released. Austin thought as he finally checked the info. Scyther, the Mantis Pokémon. Scyther is blindingly fast. Its blazing speed enhances the effectiveness of the twin scythes on its forearms. This Pokémon's scythes are so effective, they can slice through thick logs in one wicked stroke. The Pokédex beeped as Pikachu was still fit to battle. This Scyther is male and the ability is Technician. Currently, this Scyther knows Wing Attack, Quick Attack, Slash, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, Agility, and Fury Cutter. The age of this Scyther is 4 years and 2 months. He was way too strong to be a wild Pokémon. Austin thought with a frown as a certain purple-haired trainer came to his mind. Do stats matter that much in Paul's mind? Chapter 34, Chapter number 33, Fairy Type. Green chuckled as she made it to where she was hiding as a round, pink Pokémon was near her. Jiggly, we managed to scam another naive trainer. Puff. Jigglypuff clapped her hands as the girl went to add it, only for her eyes to widen. In her bag, there was a piece of paper instead of poke. Grabbing the paper, she recognized it as the same paper that Austin was writing on earlier. Next time you try to scam another trainer, make sure that they don't know how to tell real items from fake ones. Or try a more honest line of work, whatever works. Signed, Ash. I was scammed. The girl muttered in shock as Jiggly looked a little worried as her trainer was shaking. How did he pickpocket her and how did she not notice? Crumpling the note, the girl ran out with Jiggly behind her to get her 5,000 back. Come on, Butterfly, Austin said as Butterfree was standing on the ground, his eyes glowing with a boulder being carried through the air. You can do this. The bug Pokémon was trying to strengthen how much he could carry with his confusion attack. Out of the corner of his eye he could see Brock having a mock battle with Yellow, Dottie vs Zubat. After consulting with Professor Oak last night, he was able to get permission to keep 7 Pokémon on him after a few hours of trying to convince Professor Oak of his ability to feed and take care of 7 Pokémons. In actuality, the rule of 6 Pokémon was to lessen the burden on the trainer's shoulders, and if the sponsor is convinced, then the trainer may carry more than 6 Pokémon. Professor Oak also had put the condition that he must get at least 3 badges this month or his pass on keeping 7 Pokémon would be terminated. He hasn't let Scyther out yet. He planned on doing that later today because Nurse Joy was giving an inspection over him to make sure he was healthy. Looking from Butterfree to Pidgeotto, he saw that she was doing twirls in midair to dodge thunder shocks that were being fired by Pikachu. They weren't as strong as the little guy could make them be, but they stung enough to where Pidgeotto was adamant about dodging them. Rattata was having a spar with Brock's Geodude, who knew how to battle without his trainer's assistance, something she was trying to learn and to improve her skills. Butterfree was struggling though, as he never really used his psychic abilities until recently, something that Austin felt would be a disadvantage later on if left unchecked. He wanted to try with Fearow again later, but for right now he was content with just training for the gym. And there was the fact that he didn't know if Scyther would accept him as a trainer. He didn't want to have 2 disobedient Pokémon at once. Suddenly Austin saw Butterfree struggling. Butterfree, don't push yourself like that, Austin said, feeling some guilt in not realizing how exhausted this was making the bug Pokémon. Fat. Butterfree made a relieved sound as he slowly placed the boulder on the ground and sat down, breathing heavily. Austin looked to see Clefairy use a sound attack that had pinkish energy, and it slammed into a tree that created ring-shaped indents into it, much to his joy. What move was that? Austin asked in surprise. Brock heard him. It sounded like disarming voice. Austin blinked, he hadn't heard of that move before. It's a fairy-type move. Brock supplied. Oh okay. Austin stopped. Fairy-type. There was a fairy-type. Looking to the side, he pulled the Pokédex out and typed it in, only to show various Pokémon thaw areas this new type. And they were effective against Dark, Fighting and Dragon, the last one surprising Austin, while the types that could defeat it easily were Poison and Steel. Some Pokémon who were originally a different type like Clefairy, Azurill, Lots, and meanwhile were fairies. When was there a new type? And why fairy? Wouldn't it make more sense to call it light, considering it can beat dark? Brock had a worried look as Austin looked extremely shocked before he regained his composure. But man, Clefairy is a powerhouse, Austin said, hoping to hide how he reacted, although from how Brock was looking at him he wasn't fooling him. Clefairy however had a look of pride at that. It wasn't just Austin's Pokémon who were getting stronger, Yellow's Tiware and Brock's Zubat were easily catching up with Geodude and Onix. Kitty hasn't evolved yet, confusing Austin as you would think she would evolve easily, but she has a combo move called Poison String where she would trap opponents in a string shot that had poison barbs in them to slowly poison them, something that is a good strategy, although Yellow didn't look like she enjoyed that move even if she knew it may be necessary. Dottie learned Fury Attack, having seen Fearow do it plenty of times when he was a Spearow. Rage was learned naturally as a wild Pokémon attempted to attack Yellow while Dottie was around, and Pursuit was learned through training. Clefairy also learned some moves, as it turned out new Magical Leaf, and he learned Double Slap, Defense Curl, and Wake Up Slap. All of them were useful in causing damage, or in Defense Curl's case, Clefairy ensuring that would be able to withstand most attacks. Zubat was a Pokémon eager to show her strength to Brock by learning Confuse Ray, Wing Attack, and Air Cutter quite quickly. The last two helped a lot with her being more versatile in a fight and was showing that she could hold her own with her speed and being able to dodge most attacks. She wasn't up there with the rock Pokémon, but Zubat was getting pretty close. Giving a smile, Austin saw Rattata managing to beat Geodude with an Iron Tail by herself, showing how far she came from the first gym battle. Chapter 35, Chapter number 34. Suicune. Leaf Green, a cunning thief, peered through her binoculars and frowned as she observed Austin's group from a distance. She needed to retrieve the money they had taken from her, but the task seemed almost impossible now. Not only did they possess numerous Pokémon, but she also noticed that one of them had once been a gym leader, which was quite disconcerting. To make matters worse, she spotted a Pidgeotto among their ranks, and she remembered that Austin had a Fearow from the Nugget Bridge. Leaf Green had never been fond of flying types, and she was hesitant to take them on. Moreover, she couldn't risk using Jiggly without knowing if it would work effectively or not. Maybe I can use Diddy to disguise myself, she muttered under her breath as she continued observing the group. Later that evening, Austin was alone with his Pokémon Pikachu, Rattata, Pidgeot, and Butterfree. Alright, I'm going to let Scyther out, but I'm not sure how he'll react to being captured, so be prepared for anything, he warned them. Austin could see the determination in his Pokémon's eyes, even Rattata's, who had grown much friendlier towards him due to their recent battles against fewer bugs. Nodding to his Pokémon, Austin pressed the button on Scyther's Pokeball, releasing the mantis-like creature. Scyther, now healed, surveyed his surroundings warily before turning his attention to the trainer who had captured him. He raised his scythe-like arms threateningly, only to pause when he noticed the other Pokémon ready to defend their trainer. They'll only attack if you try to hurt me, Austin warned Scyther. I don't want it to come to that. Scyther shifted his glare from Pikachu, who he recognized from their battle, to Austin, eyeing him with disbelief. There, Sky! He cried out. Look, I just want us to get along, all right? Austin asked, giving Scyther a friendly grin. Scyther rolled his eyes and looked away. Austin couldn't shake the feeling that his attempt to befriend the Pokémon was failing. He sighed, saying, well, I won't force you to like us, but can you at least give us a chance? As he took a step forward, Scyther growled and raised his blades again, but stopped when he saw the other Pokémon tensing up, ready to protect their trainer. It's all right. No, it's not, Austin thought, trying not to show fear as he stared at Scyther's blade arms. He couldn't believe he was attempting to approach the hostile Pokémon. Despite the danger, he continued to walk forward until he was standing directly in front of Scyther, ignoring Pikachu's worried cry. I won't have you battle unless you want to, Austin said, and Scyther's eyes widened in disbelief. They stared each other down for a few seconds before Scyther looked away and muttered, there, nodding towards his Pokeball. You want to go back in? Austin asked, and Scyther nodded again. Well, all right. Austin returned Scyther to his Pokeball and turned to face his other Pokémon, who stared at him in surprise, having not expected their trainer to get so close to Scyther. That was reckless and a complete Ash thing to do, Austin thought to himself. Ever since he had arrived in this world, he had been acting differently, taking more risks. Could Ash's traits be influencing him? With a smile, Austin turned to return his other Pokémon to their Pokeballs but stopped when he saw something extraordinary across the water. A giant blue dog-like Pokémon with a purple mane and two white streamer-like tails stood before them. Suicune, Austin whispered, awestruck as the legendary Pokémon stared at them. Austin's Pokémon froze, a mix of awe and nervousness washing over them. Time seemed to slow down as they gazed upon Suicune. The Pokémon then began walking towards them, gracefully stepping across the water's surface until it stopped right in front of Austin. From the way Suicune looked at him, Austin knew it was aware that he didn't belong in this world. Before Austin could say anything, Suicune dropped something from its mouth and cried out, turning to race away. They all watched the majestic Pokémon disappear into the distance. Looking down at what Suicune had left behind, Austin's eyes widened in shock. It was a rainbow feather. Unbeknownst to Austin, Leaf Green had been watching the entire encounter, her eyes wide in disbelief. She had been about to confront him when the legendary Pokémon appeared. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined witnessing a legendary Pokémon from the Johto region approaching someone as casually as Suicune had with Austin. She quickly snapped a few pictures, knowing they would be valuable to the right people. But now, she found herself staring at Austin, her curiosity piqued. Who was he? Why had a legendary Pokémon chosen to approach him when most trainers went their entire lives without ever seeing one? Pallet Town, Ketchum household. Delia Ketchum couldn't help but sigh. Her favorite drama series To Be or Not to Be was airing its final episode. She couldn't wait. Just 10 minutes before she finally finds out who wins the heart of the main lead, Antonio. Switching on the TV, a news broadcast was airing. The spire of light that appeared in Cerulean City between 10 and midnight could be seen from all over Kanto, and the strange phenomenon was soon called the Shine. The source of this anomaly is still unknown. Rumors say that some kind of Pokémon created it, while other people claim that Rayquaza might have something to do with it. As of now, there's an abundance of theories swarming the web, and while we still are waiting for an official response from the League, we have confirmation that Suicune moved from Johto to Kanto this morning. The news reporter that stood in front of the crater waited in silence and brushed a hair lock out of her face as she waited for the camera crew to get their shit together. The broadcast changed and a bad quality video started playing. There was a big blue surface, and although the quality of the video was around the same one you have in UFO sightings, I could still make out it was water. A black streak shot over the screen, and just like that it was over. The video was rewinded and paused the moment the black streak was visible. It zoomed in again, lowering the quality of the video once again. If someone narrowed their eyes, they could vaguely make out the shape of a Pokémon one might describe as Suicune. The newscast went back to the reporter in Cerulean City. Is there a correlation between Suicune's arrival and the Shine? She smiled. Only time will tell. This was Lissa Thunders from Kanto. Now, back to you, George. Thank you, Lissa. A fat man with a fancy suit replied, now we have some eyewitnesses. Delia Ketchum rolled her eyes. Every news channel liked to spout out the same nonsense that some legendary Pokémon had a connection to the latest news. Just a month prior, when the fog had engulfed the east coast of Kanto, people claimed that the weather on the coast resembled a spiral and the spark was lit. Many channels claimed that it was the work of a baby Rayquaza etc., even though the weather change had resulted in the death toll of a migrating flock. Despite this tragedy happening, these people still didn't want to convey facts or statistics, rather they wanted to convey a fake story along the lines of just a theory. Over the next 3 days, Austin was plagued by questions about Suicune and the rainbow feather. He knew the feather was required to encounter Ho-Oh in the games, but why had Suicune given it to him? Had Ho-Oh deemed him worthy of meeting it in battle? And if so, why now and not when he had seen Ho-Oh from afar? What was Suicune's role in all of this? Despite his burning curiosity, Austin had to put these questions aside for the time being. He had a gym battle to focus on, and he couldn't afford to be distracted. I hope we got enough training, he muttered as he remembered how strong Brock had been in comparison to his anime counterpart. If that was any indication, Misty would be a formidable opponent. I'm sure you'll do fine, Ash, Brock reassured him. You've done more preparation than many trainers do for a gym battle. Yeah, and you won the first gym with type disadvantages. You'll win with Pikachu, Yellow chimed in, excited to witness another gym battle. For all we know, the gym leader has a strategy to counter advantages, Austin pointed out, well aware that Misty was likely prepared for electric-type Pokémon and counter-shield tactics. Shoo! Pika-Pie! Pikachu declared, a determined look in his eyes as he clenched a paw, eager for his first gym battle. With newfound resolve, Austin entered the gym, where Misty awaited him, smirking confidently. Finally, you showed up. I was beginning to think you wouldn't, she taunted. Austin took a deep breath, steeling himself for the battle ahead. Chapter 36, Chapter number 35 Against a Sensational Sisters. Austin entered to see Misty waiting. Finally you showed up, I was beginning to think you wouldn't, Misty said with a smirk. Austin returned it. Now, when I make a deal for a battle, I keep it. He said before seeing Brock and Yellow looking confused. Guys, this is Misty, one of the 4 gym leaders of Cerulean. Misty, this is Brock and Yellow. I thought it was 3. Brock asked in confusion looking at Misty. And no offense but Kanto gym leaders have to be over 13. Misty looked a bit embarrassed by that. Well, my sisters are a lot worse than I thought in running the gym. She confessed. I've tried to get them to focus more on the gym itself but they worry more about their show, but since I'm their family and have some Pokémon of my own I can fill in. How bad could they be? Austin asked with a raised brow. Misty sighed. The only Pokémon they had left was a Goldeen. Brock frowned. I'm surprised that the league hasn't tried to take their gym away. He said upon hearing that. Yes, he knew that they focused a lot on their show, but he didn't think they neglected their gym that badly. Misty shook her head. They tried, but I made an appeal to take over when I'm old enough, that was why I was traveling earlier to get stronger and catch water Pokémon. She explained. So that's what you were doing when you saved me from the Spearow flock, Austin said despite knowing. Misty gave a nod. Their Pokémon are healed so if you want to challenge me you'll have to beat them, it's the only way to make it official since I'm still too young to be a gym leader. Well, there's another thing that's different. Austin thought, no longer feeling surprised as by now he's learned to just expect anything in this world. 0. Austin stood on a battlefield ready as he saw 3 teenage girls. One was in a red swimsuit with orange hair, the middle one was a brunette with a green swimsuit and the final one had pink hair and an orange swimsuit. Brock didn't run up to flirt with them because he already has done that multiple times whenever the gym leaders met up for the year, but he did give them awestruck looks at their beauty as he and Yellow were in the stands. So who's up first? Austin asked as they all looked at the brunette who sighed and walked over to the field. This is a one-on-one match between Lily of the Sensational Sisters and the challenger Ash from Pallet Town. Misty began as a referee. The match will last until one side Pokémon is defeated. Butterfree go, Austin said wanting to save Pidgeotto and Pikachu for Misty and he saw Misty freeze a bit at seeing Butterfree before shaking her head. Shelder, you can do this, Lily said in a Valley Girl's voice as she sent out a purple shell Pokémon as it opened up to show darkness with 2 eyes blinking and a long pink tongue sticking out. Like use Icicle Spear, Lily ordered as Shelder began shooting spears of ice right at Butterfree. Confusion to knock them down, Austin ordered as Butterfree's eyes glowed before the spears came to a stop and fell. Now use Gust. Fet. Butterfree kicked up the wind but Lily ordered a Protect, preventing harm from coming to Shelder. Sleep Powder, Austin ordered. Withdraw. Shelder quickly went into its shell, protecting itself from the spores while increasing defense. Smart, it keeps the Shelder safe from the spores, Brock said as Yellow was cheering for Butterfree. Frowning, Austin decided to end it. Use Confusion to pick it up and slam it into the ground. Butterfree gave a nod as psychic energy surrounded Shelder and lifted him high enough before slamming him into the ground a few times. After a few seconds, the shell opened up to show that he was unconscious. Shelder is unable to battle, Misty said as Lily sighed and returned her Pokémon. Alright, Daisy. Violet, which one of you is next? I'll fight. Daisy, the orange head said walking up knowing that Violet wasn't a good battler, just below Lily before sending a blue tadpole Pokémon with arms and legs. Poliwhirl, you're up. Returning Butterfree, Austin sent Rattata out who looked confused. Sword Strike. Rattata gave a nod and shot forward combining Quick Attack and Iron Tail as it slammed into the Poliwhirl, sending her rolling across the field but she got up quickly, the steel part of the attack didn't do much damage. Double Slap. Poliwhirl shot forward delivering a barrage of slaps, knocking Rattata down. Body Slam. Use Quick Attack to get away, Austin said as Rattata was more limited than Butterfree due to how the field was a few mets on the pool. Water Gun, Daisy ordered as Poliwhirl began shooting streams of water at Rattata who was using her speed to dodge them. Daisy so far was showing that she was a good battler, but her head wasn't fully in it, otherwise her Pokémon might have been able to take Rattata down as shown by the marks a single water gun made. Get in close and use Hyper Fang. Austin ordered as the small rat shot in and bit Poliwhirl in the arm causing her to cry out in pain. Shake it off, Daisy ordered not wanting to see Poliwhirl hurt that badly as Poliwhirl began shaking the Rattata who held on. That was when Poliwhirl let out a bubble beam that slammed into Rattata, knocking her across the field, looking very injured as she was pushing herself up. Finish it with body slam, Daisy said with a grin. As Poliwhirl lunged at Rattata, the rat cried as she began to glow. No way, Daisy said in shock as Austin had a grin. Brock and Yellow however looked worried in the stands. The last time one of his Pokémon evolved it stopped listening to him. In Rattata's place stood a big, bipedal tawny-colored rat with a creamy underside and large buck teeth as she hissed at Poliwhirl in an intimidating manner, causing the tadpole to back up a bit, wary of her. Taking out the Pokédex, Austin scanned her. Raticate the mouse Pokémon. With its long fangs, this surprisingly violent Pokémon can gnaw away even thick concrete with ease. The Pokédex provided. This Pokémon has learned the moves Sucker Punch and Attract. Looking up, Austin finally felt some worry. Raticate, you alright? Raticate turned and looked at him before giving a grin as she nodded, showing that she wasn't about to pull a Fearow on him. Giving his grin, Austin decided to test one of the new moves out. Sucker Punch. Raticate became a blur and slammed into the Poliwhirl faster than she could see, slamming the tadpole into the wall where she fell over, unconscious. The winner is Ash from Pallet Town, Misty said giving a nod. That's enough to where you can challenge me. Chapter 37, Chapter number 36 Counter Shield. Raticate became a blur and slammed into the Poliwhirl faster than she could see, slamming the tadpole into the wall where she fell over, unconscious. The winner is Ash from Pallet Town, Misty said giving a nod. That's enough to where you can challenge me. Austin gave a nod as Raticate used Quick Attack to jump from one pad to another before making it to him where he rubbed the top of her head. You did amazing, Raticate, he said, earning a soft growl in response from her. In the stands, Brock looked relieved. Well, at least Raticate isn't giving him any trouble. Why would she? Yellow asked with a smile. Ash is a cool trainer. Brock raised a brow at how Yellow said that before seeing Misty at the end of the field while Austin returned Raticate. You did well so far, Misty said as she had a Pokeball in her hand. But your luck is about to run out. Bring it, Austin said pulling out another Pokeball. Misty calls Staryu. Misty called out as she sent a brown starfish Pokémon with a red jewel out. Hiya! Staryu called out as it landed on one of the mats. In that case, Pidgeotto take the field. Austin said sending the bird out as Pidgeotto cried flying through the air. Do you think Misty can win? Lily asked curiously. Violet chuckled. Like in her dreams maybe. Start things up with Twister. Austin called out as Pidgeotto gave a cry of confirmation and began to flap her wings, causing the strong wind as the water began to shake. Rapid spin. Misty countered as Staryu jumped and spun right through the Twister much to Austin's surprise. Quick Attack to dodge, Austin said, but Staryu smacked into Pidgeotto before she could dodge as Misty called out a water gun. To counter that, Austin had Pidgeotto block with Steel Wing as the water was easily countered due to the glowing wings. When Staryu stopped, Austin called out another Quick Attack, allowing Pidgeotto to take off in a blur and slam into the Staryu multiple times. Misty had enough. Water Pulse. Fly up, Austin said in worry as he didn't want Pidgeotto to get confused or injured. But Pidgeotto was limited due to the battle being indoors as she was dodging Water Pulse after Water Pulse. That was when Misty changed things up with a swift as the barrage of stars shot out of Staryu's jewel and slammed into Pidgeotto, causing her to slam into one of the mats. Pidgeotto, are you alright? Austin called out as Pidgeotto pushed herself up, not wanting to be defeated in another gym battle. Misty's not doing so bad, Violet commented from the sideline. Nice job. Lily gave a nod as she saw a white seal Pokémon clapping. Like, who are you cheering for? This is bad, Pidgeotto is limited in this fight and if he sends out Pikachu he'll be too tired for the next battle, Brock commented as he had a frown. But Misty is also showing that she has what it takes to be a good gym leader when she can. Come on, Ash. Yellow called out. You can win this. Austin gained a determined look as Pidgeotto looked ready to continue as Staryu disappeared into the water. What to do? Immediately Austin snapped out of his thoughts as he remembered. Pidgeotto used Twister on the water. Pidgeotto cried as she shot into the air and began to unleash her attack. Misty looked confused by his tactics before she saw a whirlpool beginning to form from the attack. Staryu, get out of the water. But it was too late as the water began to swirl, causing Staryu to be stuck right in the middle before he managed to shoot out of the water, allowing Pidgeotto to slam into him with a quick attack. Staryu slammed into the wall and fell over, his jewel glowing red in defeat. Alright, Pidgeotto! Austin called out as the bird landed on his outstretched arm. Pidgeotto looked exhausted but had her chest puffed proudly from winning a gym battle, showing how far she came from the pewter gym. You may have beaten Staryu but try for my next Pokémon, Misty said as she called out her second Pokémon. Misty chooses Starmie. It was just like Staryu, only a bit bigger, purple, and had more arms/legs. On seeing that, Austin returned Pidgeotto. Nice job Pidgeotto! He said before looking at Pikachu. You ready? Shoo! Pikachu ran out on the field as his cheeks began to spark. Don't expect to win just because you have the advantage. Misty called out before getting ready. Size Hawk. That caught Austin off guard but he reacted. Counter Shield. Pikachu began using the counter shield as Starmie's psychic attack slammed into it, barely stopping it before he tried to get the Starmie with some of the electricity. I've been waiting for that one, Misty said remembering the strategy. Power Gem. Sparks shot out of the gem on Starmie as Pikachu dodged using quick attack before one slammed him into the air. Iron Tail. Austin said as Pikachu's tail began to glow before the electro ball formed. The steel typing in the tail made the electricity more powerful before it slammed into Starmie, causing her to stagger. Starmie, Misty called out in worry. Now Thunder Shock. Counter with Thunderbolt. Misty ordered, surprising everyone as Starmie began to use a stronger electric attack, obliterating the Thunder Shock and slamming into Pikachu, who cried out as his body began to absorb it. Pikachu! Austin called out before Pikachu's eyes opened and he cried out as he returned the attack. With a Thunderbolt of his own. Starmie's Thunderbolt must have been enough to charge Pikachu up to where he could learn it. Austin thought, remembering how Flint helped Pikachu learn Thunderbolt in the anime's timeline. Giving a grin at that as Starmie looked ready to collapse, Austin gave the final order. Electric Impact, but with Thunderbolt. Shoo! Pikachu became a blur as the stronger electric attack covered him before slamming into Starmie as it fired a power gem, causing an explosion that caused dust to fly everywhere. As the dust settled, both Pikachu and Starmie were out of it. It's a double knockout. Daisy called. And since the challenger still has Pidgeotto, the victory goes to him. Alright. Austin cheered as he ran out on the mats to pick up Pikachu while Misty returned Starmie. Great job Pikachu! Shoo! Pikachu had a smile as they got off the field for Yellow and Brock to run up. That was amazing, I didn't know Pikachu was that strong, Yellow said in awe as Pikachu hasn't been tested that much before. And nice job on using Twister and the counter shield. Brock complimented. Haha, thanks, Austin said. 0. You deserve this, Misty said, giving Austin the Cascade badge. Hard to believe you're that kid I had to save from the Spearow flock. Thanks for that, by the way, Austin said as Misty gave a nod. So what do you plan on doing now? Well, I still have to wait until I can officially take over the Cerulean Gym. Until then I plan on training and getting more water Pokémon, Misty said as she looked at her sisters. As long as some people keep on battling until then. You can relax, Misty, we'll keep the gym running for you, Daisy promised her. Violet winked. Yeah, you have to do something since we got the beauty. Hey! Misty glared at them as Daisy gave an apologetic smile. You keep that up and you'll be seeing stars. Misty, be careful, you know that we care for you. Yeah, Misty said. Austin gave a grin. If you want you can travel with us. Brock and Yellow gave Austin a look of surprise but they smiled at the idea. Wait. Misty looked surprised at that. Yeah, the more the merrier, right? Austin said with a smile. What do you guys say? I'm cool with it, Brock said with a nod. It'll be fun, Yellow added. Well, how can I say no, Misty said, accepting the idea. Austin's Pokémon team. Pikachu, M, Ability, Static. Moves, Thundershock, Growl, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Iron Tail, Electro Ball and Thunderbolt. Combo Ion Tail, Iron Tail and Electro Ball, Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Electric Impact, Thunderbolt and Quick Attack, and Counter Shield, Electric Style. Fearow, M, Ability, Keen Eye. Moves, Peck, Leer, Focus Energy, Fury Attack, Aerial Ace, Steel Wing and Mirror Move. Combo Aerial Wing, Aerial Ace and Steel Wing. Raticate, F, Ability, Guts. Moves, Tackle, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Focus Energy, Iron Tail, Dig, Hyper Fang, Sucker Punch and Attract. Combo Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Burrow, Dig and Quick Attack. Butterfree, M. Ability, Tinted Lens. Moves, Tackle, String Shot, Bug Bite, Harden, Confusion, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, and Gust. Pidgeotto, F. Ability, Tangled Feet. Moves, Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, Steel Wing, and Twister. Scyther, M. Ability, Technician. Moves, Wing Attack, Quick Attack, Slash, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, Agility, and Fury Cutter. Clefairy, M. Ability, Magic Guard. Moves, Pound, Growl, Sing, Disarming Voice, Magical Leaf, Double Slap, Defense Curl, and Wake Up Slap. Pokémon Scene, 40. Pokémon Owned, 7. Badges obtained, Boulder Badge and Cascade Badge. Yellow's Pokémon Team. Weedle, Kitty, F. Ability, Poison Point. Moves, Poison Sting and String Shot. Combo Poison Sting, Poison Sting and String Shot. Doduo, Dottie, M. Ability, Runaway Moves, Growl, Peck, Quick Attack, Fury Attack, Rage, and Pursuit. Brock's Pokémon Team. Onyx, M. Ability, Rockhead. Moves, Bind, Tackle, Harden, Mud Sport, Curse, Rock Throw, Rock Tomb, and Rage. Geodude, M. Ability, Sand Veil. Moves, Defense Curl, Tackle, Mud Sport, Rock Polish, Rollout, Rock Tomb, and Magnitude. Zubat, F. Ability, Infiltrator. Moves, Leech Life, Supersonic, Astonish, Bite, Wing Attack, Confuse Ray, and Air Cutter. Misty's Pokémon Team. Staryu, M. Ability, Natural Cure. Moves, Rapid Spin, Water Gun, Water Pulse, and Swift. Starmie, F. Ability, Analytic. Moves, Sicehawk, Power Gem, and Thunderbolt. Chapter 38, Chapter number 37. The Unofficial Gym Part 1. Dodge and use Hyper Fang, Austin ordered as he was fighting a random trainer who had a Rattata, with his Raticate. Rattata! The boy cried out as his rat was knocked out. Raticate gave a huff of annoyance at fighting another small fry compared to the gym. How many battles is that now? Misty asked as she was standing near Brock and Yellow. I think it's 12 right. No, Brock answered as Austin was speaking to the kid who returned his Rattata. Man, your Raticate is tough. The boy said to Austin while Raticate just stood next to Austin. Yes, she's a strong Pokémon, your Rattata is tough as well, Austin said before seeing Raticate snort at that. But you should teach him some diversity, that's something I'll be doing to my Raticate soon. That caught Raticate's attention and she gave him a surprised look. Like what? The boy asked curiously what Rattata could learn. Well, Rattata and Raticates can learn quite the diverse type of moves like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, although the latter would probably be the hardest to learn and they would need more experience, Austin said, rubbing the back of his head. So just try an experiment and you could teach your Rattata to be prepared for anything. Thanks, man, I bet you could even beat AJ. The boy said with a smile. AJ? Austin said, now recognizing the kid from the show. Yeah, he trains savage Pokémon and he built his gym down there. The kid said, pointing in a direction. They say he's never lost a single match. Never? Brock asked in surprise as the kid gave a nod. Sounds like a good challenge, Austin said. Well, everything else has been different, why not see how AJ is different? Austin thought. You sure about that, Ash? Misty asked with a raised brow. I heard about this AJ when I was in Cerulean City, he has nearly 100 wins under his belt. Brock gave a nod, agreeing with her. And you have nearly 50 from all the battles I remember. He said, thinking about the various trainers from Pewter to Cerulean and from there to this place. That just makes it more exciting, Austin said with a grin. He was getting into doing this. Well, I guess it would be a good learning experience, Brock said, giving a nod. I wonder what Pokémon this AJ has. Yellow mused, although she looked worried as she remembered how the kid said that AJ's Pokémon were savage. 0. It didn't take too long to find the gym closed off by a wooden gate and fence, showing a huge tent behind it as they saw the scoreboard in front of it. But what caught Austin's attention was the score. Wins, 99, losses, 1. Wait, someone beat AJ. Austin thought in surprise. I thought people were saying he was undefeated. It could be recent, Brock said, sounding confused. It must be, it's only been 2 days since I heard about me, Misty said with a frown. Still 99 wins. Yellow shook her head. I know that Ash is tough, but he only won half that many. I think I know who beat him. Austin guessed in his mind. Are you my next victim? A new voice asked as they turned to see a trainer with green hair, wearing a red/black shirt and blue shorts, carrying a backpack. So you're AJ the wild Pokémon trainer, Austin said with a grin. He would be lying if he said he wasn't looking forward to the battle. That's what they call me, and beating chumps like you is my hobby, AJ said as Austin felt his eye twitch at the rhyme. So are you ready to lose? The battle hasn't even started yet, so don't underestimate him, Austin said as Pikachu had his cheeks spark in anticipation. The door to the gym opened up and they walked to the stadium, which was almost in shambles from a different fight. Sorry about the mess, I didn't get the chance to clean up after that Paul kid was here last week, AJ muttered in disdain as Austin's head snapped towards him. Called it? Austin exclaimed in his heart. Yeah, some punk with purple hair and a magma, AJ muttered, confirming who it was. But I don't want to think about him, so let's get to our battle, chump. AJ placed his bag down in time for a Butterfree to fly down and grab it. What's in the bag? Yellow asked curiously. Just some wild Pokémon I just caught, AJ said without a care. I try to keep enough Pokémon to where I have a good variety with me. I have a bit more in the tent. Any chance we can see them after the battle? Yellow asked with a smile at seeing other Pokémon as AJ gave an indifferent shrug. Sure, why not? AJ then turned to Austin. So who are you going to send out for my 100th win? How many Pokémon? Austin asked as he got to the stadium. Depends, how many do you have? AJ asked, eyeing the belt where the Pokeballs were. 7, but one of them isn't a fighter. Alright, this will be a 6-on-6 match, AJ said, whistling. A Beedrill flew in with a belt that had 5 Pokeballs. Misty gave a shiver at seeing the Beedrill and Yellow took a small step back. The sight of Yellow taking a step back was a surprise to Austin before remembered how she was chased by the horde of Beedrill when they met. Shaking his head, Austin pulled out a Pokeball. Fearow, take the field. Yellow, Brock, and Misty gave Austin a look of surprise. What are you doing? Ash asked, looking at him as Pikachu cried out in surprise. I'm hoping Fearow will listen if he hears how many wins this guy has. Fear. Fearow cried out as he stretched his wings, looking around. Not a bad Pokémon. AJ complimented as he sent a Pokeball flying. But it won't be enough. Instead of a Sandshrew like Austin was expecting, AJ sent out a Rhyhorn, much to their surprise. Fearow, this guy has nearly 100 wins, so this will be a tough battle. Austin began, only for Fearow to take to the sky and dive in, his wings glowing. I had a feeling that would happen, Brock muttered as Fearow just began to disobey. I know you guys said that he was having trouble, but I didn't think it was this bad, Misty said as she remembered the temperamental Spearow that Austin had in Viridian City. Wow, can't even control your Pokémon, chump. AJ taunted as he had a whip out to everyone's surprise and he smacked the ground with it. Rhyhorn, you smack down. Rhyhorn just calmly ducked and slammed a foot on the ground, causing a rock to fly up and smack Fearow in the face, causing him to crash to the ground. Fearow, come on, we need to work together. Austin tried, only for Fearow to cry out defiantly and got up to do a fury attack. Finish it with Rock Blast, AJ said as Rhyhorn gave a cry and fired an orb that shot out of its mouth at the Fearow, knocking him out. That was pathetic. Return, Austin said with a sigh before he looked at the Pokeball with some sadness. He didn't know if Fearow will ever listen to him again. So do any of your Pokémon obey you, or are you that terrible of a trainer? AJ asked, causing Austin to glare as he took out a Pokeball. Raticate, go! Raticate cried as she appeared. Careful, this Rhyhorn took Fearow down easily. Raticate gave a nod as AJ just scoffed. At least use something I haven't beaten before, AJ muttered before giving a command. Take down. Rhyhorn began running at Raticate, who was on all fours, snarling. Wait for me, Austin said as Rhyhorn got closer. Now, use Burrow. Raticate dove into the ground right as Rhyhorn missed before diving out at a quick speed, causing Rhyhorn to fly into the air. What? AJ asked in shock before quickly overcoming the surprise. Use Earthquake as you come down. Sword Strike. Austin ordered as Raticate jumped up to do so, but Rhyhorn used his head to slam Raticate into the ground before landing, causing the ground to shake as Raticate was sent flying. Struggling to push herself up, Raticate saw the Rhyhorn running at her with a takedown. Austin was at a loss before remembering a certain move that Raticate knew and he didn't try it. Attract. Raticate frowned before focusing as pink energy shot from her hitting the Rehorn, who shook his head in confusion before seeing Raticate in a whole different light as his eyes began to sparkle at her. Rehorn, snap out of it! AJ shouted in irritation as the Rehorn was now drooling. Smart move, now Rehorn is in a trance, Brock said, seeing what Austin did. But how did he know that Rehorn was a boy? Misty asked in surprise. Simply, Austin said with a grin. The male Rehorn eyes are big while the female ones are a lot smaller. Chapter 39, Chapter number 38, The Unofficial Gym Part 2. Attract. Raticate frowned before focusing as pink energy shot from her hitting the Rehorn, who shook his head in confusion before seeing Raticate in a whole different light as his eyes began to sparkle at her. Rehorn, snap out of it! AJ shouted in irritation as the Rehorn was now drooling. Smart move, now Rehorn is in a trance, Brock said, seeing what Austin did. But how did he know that Rehorn was a boy? Misty asked in surprise. Simple, Austin said with a grin. The male Rehorn eyes are big while the female ones are a lot smaller. Remembering how his brother called him the fountain of useless Pokémon knowledge, Austin thought with his grin. Not so useless now, hey. Come on Rehorn! AJ cried out again. Drill run, Mega Horn, something. Finish this with Sword Strike! Austin said as Raticate ran forward and slammed her steel tail right into Rehorn, causing his face to crack as he went down hard. Seeing how Rehorn was unconscious, AJ returned it with a frown. Cheap trick, he said to Austin. It's called strategy, there are no cheap tricks, Austin called back. Well, how will you deal with this? AJ sent out a monkey that had a pig nose with giant brown boxing gloves. Maybe. Primeape shouted as it slammed its fists together. Austin frowned as this was one of the Pokémon he couldn't tell was a male or a female. Plus he was at a disadvantage, so he calmly returned Raticate. Thanks, I'll save you for a different fight, he said, feeling some warmth from the ball before pulling out another Pokeball. Butterfree, take the field. Fat! Butterfree cried as he landed. Almost in response, Kitty came out of her Pokeball with a cry, causing Misty to jump and move back. Kitty, do you want to watch Butterfree fight? Yellow asked curiously as Kitty gave a nod. I'll just stay over here, Misty said, not wanting to be near the Weedle as she took up position on the other side of Brock. Austin raised a brow at that before AJ took advantage of his momentary distraction. Power up punch! Power up what? Austin thought, not sure what that was before he gave his command. Block with confusion. Fat! Butterfree caught the Primeape in a psychic field before AJ smirked. Night Slash! Primeape broke free of the psychic attack with the dark move and caused the dark energy to slam into Butterfree, sending him flying back before he righted himself. Now Smackdown! Seeing how he was trying to ground Butterfree with the various rocks, Austin ordered a confusion to grab a rock being thrown and smack the others away before sending the rock flying back, but Primeape smashed through it with Rock Smash. AJ then ordered a bulk up as Primeape began to increase its stats. Butterfree and Primeape are evenly matched, Yellow said, a little worried as Kitty was watching the fight. Butterfree has the advantage, but it could go either way with how well AJ trained his Primeape. Brock agreed as he saw Butterfree going for a gust, but Primeape plowed through it. Fire Punch! AJ called out as Primeape gave a cry and shot forward, his fist igniting. Oh man, AJ is better than the anime showed him to be. Austin thought, wondering if he shouldn't even be surprised anymore at this point. Butterfree went to dodge, but the Primeape was too quick for him and slammed him into the ground, where he struggled to get up, only for flames to ignite, showing that he was burnt. Butterfree, return! Austin called out as he recalled the bug Pokémon, basically forfeiting him. Bring out my next victim, AJ said with a smirk as Primeape did some mock punches. I'll show you a victim. Austin thought, a little angered by how this guy was treating his team. Ever since Firo stopped listening, Austin has worked hard to bond with the team and he has grown close to them, so hearing this guy calling them victims was beginning to piss him off. Don't think you're safe in the sky, AJ said, snapping his whip. Smackdown! Twister! Austin shouted as Pidgeotto managed to knock the rocks down. Now Gust! Pidgeotto gave a chirp as she created another windstorm. The Primeape was struggling to stay on the field before it was blown back. Pidgeotto finished it with a quick attack. Mape! Primeape uttered as he was on the ground, too dizzy to continue. They're tied now, Yellow said as she was a little worried by how Austin was acting. Yeah, but Ash only has 2 Pokémon who haven't fought while AJ has 4, so he'll be hard-pressed if he wins, Brock commented. Not to mention how AJ is pushing Ash's buttons in this fight. Austin realized that AJ had gotten under his skin, took a deep breath. Back home I hated it whenever someone messed with my friends, and hearing this guy call our team chumps and calling us weak, it just got to me. Austin thought. But here on the battlefield, anger will only cause me to lose. Austin looked back to the field as AJ sent out his third Pokémon. It was Sandshrew. Careful Pidgeotto, Austin said on the cautious side now. Just because ground types don't affect flying doesn't mean he might not have anything that can hurt you. Pidgeotto gave a nod as AJ smirked and cracked his whip. Sandshrew moved without AJ saying anything. Right, he controls Sandshrew with a crack of his whip. Austin thought as Sandshrew shot into the air in a ball. Chapter 40, Chapter number 39, The Unofficial Gym Part 3. AJ sent out his third Pokémon. It was Sandshrew. Careful Pidgeotto, Austin said on the cautious side now. Just because ground types don't affect flying doesn't mean he might not have anything that can hurt you. Pidgeotto gave a nod as AJ smirked and cracked his whip. Sandshrew moved without AJ saying anything. Right, controls Sandshrew with a crack of his whip. Austin thought as Sandshrew shot into the air in a ball. Quick attack to dodge, Austin called out as Pidgeotto blurred to another part of the field as Sandshrew missed. Now Steel Wing. AJ just cracked his whip again as Sandshrew landed and he uncurled as Pidgeotto shot in with her wings glowing. Rock Slide. Austin's eyes widened. Pidgeotto, get out of there. But he was too late as Sandshrew gave a cry and slammed his paws on the ground, the rocks shooting out and slamming into Pidgeotto, knocking her out. I'll admit you're better than the other chumps that I face, AJ said with a smirk. Usually they can never make it past my first Pokémon, but you're still a chump. Giving a glare, Austin returned Pidgeotto. You did a great job Pidgeotto, take a rest. With that, he sent Raticate back out, who looked tired but still ready to fight. Hopefully, Raticate can knock Sandshrew out so Pikachu won't have to face him. Austin thought with a calculating look. Pikachu might stand a chance with Sword Strike, but he would still be at a disadvantage against the ground moves. Then there is Clefairy, but he might be in trouble if Sandshrew has a Steel-type move. AJ cracked his whip again as Sandshrew shot in, his arms glowing. Brick Break. Austin thought, remembering how Scyther used that move. Wait for it, Austin said, seeing how Sandshrew was moving. Wait. Now. Quick attack to jump over him and use Hyper Fang. Austin ordered as Raticate barely dodged by using the speed to jump high into the air as Sandshrew slammed the Brick Break into the ground before she shot in, using her fangs to clamp onto the Sandshrew. Ratatas can break stone with their fangs. Raticates are probably overkilling right now. Austin thought as Sandshrew was doing everything, trying to get Raticate to let go. Now Sucker Punch. All Sandshrew saw was a blur before he was sent flying back, but he still got up. Attract. Not this time. AJ cracked his whip as Sandshrew dug into the ground. Follow with Burrow. Austin ordered as Raticate dug as well, and both of them were silent as they waited for their Pokémon to come out. Finally, after what seemed like forever, they both came out with Raticate hanging off of Sandshrew's tail with her fangs, only for Sandshrew to use that to his advantage and spin around, slamming Raticate against the ground, causing her to cry out in pain before a Brick Break slammed right across her face, knocking her out. Sandshrew landed on the ground a little worse for wear, but still okay as Austin returned Raticate. Thank you for doing so well, Austin said to Raticate before looking down. Get ready for Angel's Descent. Hearing Austin's calls out, AJ was on guard as a Clefairy showed up on the battlefield and immediately used Defense Curl to roll up into a pink ball. Yellow immediately knew Austin's strategy while everyone was mostly confused. AJ decided to go on the offensive before smacking his whip on the ground with more force than usual, causing Sandshrew to kick sand up, attempting to do Sand Tomb as the field began to swirl, but Clefairy in its ball form rolled and without looking it was dodging the rocks. AJ looked at Austin, who had an arrogant smirk on his face before he covered his mouth with his hands. What AJ didn't know was that Austin was taking advantage of Clefairy's incredible hearing to give commands to the fairy Pokémon without alerting anyone. Use Fissure. Hearing that hit KO move being called upon, Austin immediately clapped his hands. Clefairy in its ball form used Disarming Voice as a dust cloud was kicked up. With Clefairy being launched up high in the air, AJ clicked his tongue as the Fissure completely missed the airborne Clefairy. They outstretched their hands and launched a magical leaf. This was Angel's Descent combo that Austin had been working on with Yellow. Dodge, AJ called out, but the magical leaf was a move that bypasses accuracy. The dust cloud cleared, revealing a knocked out Sandshrew. Clefairy curled into a ball as he landed safely on the ground. AJ sent out his last Pokémon. A very muscular Pokémon. Its arms have exposed veins that express its phenomenal power, and it wears a belt to contain this power. A choke. Before Austin could say anything, Machoke used a scary face to freeze Clefairy from turning into a ball. Clefairy, snape out of it. Austin's calls were not heard as Machoke immediately formed a ball of purple sludge and threw it at Clefairy. Knowing that it was a poison-type move, Austin immediately called back Clefairy, losing another Pokémon. Thank you for doing so well, Austin said to Clefairy before looking down. You ready, buddy? Shoo. Pikachu looked a little unsure as Austin winced, seeing how Pikachu while he battled for Austin quite a bit wasn't as dedicated as he became after fighting Surge in Cannon. Pikachu, I know that Machoke is strong, but if you don't battle then everything the others did in this fight would have been for nothing, Austin said, causing Pikachu to stop and think as he remembered how hard the others fought. Even Firo fought with his all despite not listening to Austin. Getting a determined look, Pikachu ran out to the field as his cheeks began sparking, ready to fight. I hope Ash knows what he's doing, Misty said, a little concerned because she didn't want to see Pikachu injured. He probably has a strategy ready to make a comeback, Brock said, giving a nod as he remembered how Austin always found a way to surprise people in a fight. But I don't get it, Yellow said, tilting her head as they watched Pikachu and Machoke staring each other down. AJ has nearly 100 wins while Ash has almost 50, shouldn't AJ be the stronger one here? Normally yes, but AJ said he has a lot of Pokémon, so he most likely switches in each battle, Brock said to Yellow, seeing how she asked that. While Ash is using the same team he's had for a while. It's quality vs quantity here, so despite having more wins, AJ is evenly matched with Ash because of how many Pokémon he uses in battle. AJ finally had enough of the glaring match and cracked his whip, causing Machoke to move quickly. Pikachu responded with a quick attack to move around Machoke, who was attempting to use Toxic to catch Pikachu and poison him. Okay, I need to be creative, Austin thought as he tried to look for an opening. Pikachu kept moving, dodging each purple sludge ball before Austin gave an order. Keep on the move and use Iron Tail whenever you see an opening. Pikachu gave a nod and shot in, hitting Machoke with an Iron Tail before retreating as he tried to do a brick break, using his speed to his advantage. AJ gritted his teeth as this happened a few more times before smacking his whip on the ground with more force than usual, causing Machoke to kick sand up, attempting to blind Pikachu. A wave of sand and rocks formed as a result of Machoke, one of the rocks ending catching Pikachu as he got his foot stuck. With that done, Machoke used a dynamic punch, causing Pikachu to cry out in pain as he was sent rolling before Machoke launched Toxic at Pikachu. Block with Iron Tail. Pikachu's tail glowed and caught the ball of poisonous sludge before he swung with all his strength, causing Machoke to be hit and poisoned. Austin's eyes widened as a red aura erupted from Machoke. Guts. Enough, AJ said, finally giving out a vocal order. Close combat. Austin's eyes widened as Machoke ran at extremely high speeds toward Pikachu. Pikachu avoid that at all costs, he shouted, knowing it was the power behind the move. Pikachu had a hard time following that with his foot stuck, but he barely got out of the rock and tried to dove out of the way but couldn't keep dodging as Machoke executed his egg move. Pikachu landed by Austin's feet, too exhausted to go on. AJ smirked. And that's that, he said, straightening his whip as Machoke had a smug look. Austin knelt and picked Pikachu up, surprised that he lost. He hasn't lost since MT Moon against Ariana, and here he lost to AJ. Hey, is Pikachu alright? Yellow asked as everyone ran up, breaking Austin out of his thoughts. He'll be fine after some rest, won't you, buddy? Austin asked as Pikachu opened his eyes and gave a nod. Yellow looked worried for him, but she gave a nod, knowing that even if she offered, Austin wouldn't have her heal Pikachu unless it was bad. While they were in Cerulean City, Brock and Austin spoke with her about keeping her abilities a secret, especially considering what would happen if Team Rocket found out about them. So with Misty around, until they decided she was trustworthy, she wouldn't be able to use them unless it was an emergency. Although she was confused when Austin didn't look too concerned about Misty knowing. Misty and Brock went to say something, but AJ walked up to them with a thoughtful look before he gave a nod. Not bad for a chump, he finally said before gesturing to his tent. Now y'all wanted to see my Pokémon, right? The others gave a nod as Austin sighed before grinning. Sure, why not? Chapter 41, Chapter number 40, Kitty. Everyone had wide eyes as they walked in, showing that a Butterfree and Beedrill were sparring in midair while Rattata were jumping and running around each other, and he had a Machop and some Bellsprout training in the background. All of them were wearing harnesses on their bodies, much to everyone's surprise. This is how you train them? Misty asked at seeing it. Yup, I want them to succeed so I don't hold anything back and they become stronger as a result, AJ said with a nod. They're in pretty good shape. What type of Pokémon food do you give them? Brock asked as he saw how they all trained. My very own recipe, AJ said, opening a cabinet to show rows upon rows of Pokémon food. To get the results we want I have to carefully monitor their diets, of course, the recipe is secret. Well, of course, I make my Pokémon food too, Brock said as he sent his Pokémon out, causing AJ to look at them before giving a nod. You care for them and they're strong, AJ commented on seeing them before looking at the others. So far, you saw my Pokémon, can I see all of yours? Misty and Yellow looked at each other before sending their Pokémon out. Staryu, Starmie, and Dottie all cried out as they came out of the Pokeballs, while Kitty squirmed back towards Dottie. The two water Pokémon are tough, but these three are still lacking, AJ said, seeing Yellow's Pokémon before frowning. How long have you had this Weedle? 2 months, Yellow said, causing AJ to raise a brow. That long and she's still a Weedle? They usually evolve after a week or two. AJ commented with a raised brow. Yeah, we haven't exactly figured that out either, Austin said. He and Brock were worried about that themselves. Okay, Ash, right. AJ looked at him. Now let me see your Pokémon since we've had our battle. Austin gave a nod as he sent his team out, although he hesitated on Fearow. Everyone cried out as they were released, all of them tired except for Scyther, as Pikachu jumped off of Austin's shoulder and ran out with them. AJ gave a nod. They're all pretty well trained. He began before stopping in surprise at the Scyther who glared at him. Wait, I know this Scyther. That caught everyone's attention. You do? Austin asked in surprise. Yeah, it belonged to that Paul kid who battled me. The only Pokémon of his I was able to take down was his Scyther, AJ said, causing Scyther to snarl. But I'm confused, why didn't you try to use him in our battle? I recently caught him and I promised Scyther I wouldn't use him for a battle unless he wanted to fight, Austin said with a smile before he frowned. I knew it, that Scyther did indeed belong to Paul. Fearow, who never met Scyther, cried as Scyther brandished his blades. Whoa, no fighting you two, Austin said, a little worried. That Fearow is a handful, AJ commented with a raised brow. How long have you had it? Since my first day as a trainer. He stopped listening when he evolved, Austin said with some sadness in his tone. Fearow just ignored them and looked away. Well, you all have some good Pokémon, AJ said, looking them over. Of course, mine are better. Fearow opened his eyes and cawed, taking offense to that. But I better get packed up, AJ said with his arms crossed as a bell rang. All right, you wimps get a 15-minute break. Packed up? Misty gave him a look. For what? I made it a goal to get 100 wins before I go collecting badges, AJ revealed. That way my team and I would be prepared for anything. Sounds like a good training exercise, Austin commented with a grin. Although I am not patient enough to try it. Shoo. Austin looked down to see that Pikachu put on one of the training harnesses and curled up into a ball. Pikachu. Austin looked at AJ as he couldn't get the thing unhooked. Can I get a little help? Hold on a minute, AJ said as he fiddled with it. Yellow, however, looked at everyone's Pokémon and thought about how AJ said hers were lacking. As if sensing her thoughts, Kitty squirmed next to her leg and rubbed against it, causing her to smile and pick her up. I'm fine, Kitty, Yellow said with a sad smile. She didn't like the idea of her friends getting hurt, that was why she needed to get better at battling. 0. It was nighttime as everyone was asleep. It was late as AJ offered for them to spend the night there until they left the next morning with all the Pokémon out. Scyther was quiet as he watched everyone. Besides the Fearow, he could see the other Pokémon sleeping near his new trainer, and he could see it was the same with the other humans. There, Scyther muttered as it thought about what it witnessed inside the Pokeball. This human that caught him, kept his promise about not including him in any battles the last few days, but that wasn't what surprised him. What surprised him was the fact that he didn't say anything harsh to his Pokémon when they lost. Heck, not even when the Fearow disrespected him he didn't say anything to Fearow, and he saw the human attempt to befriend the stubborn bird earlier. Pathetic, you couldn't beat a Bellsprout. A harsh voice cut through Scyther's thoughts as he remembered his last trainer who worked him to the bone in training to keep up with his other Pokémon, but it lost battle after battle with him, earning scorn and annoyance from the boy. It was weird how different this boy was from the last one. Shoo! Scyther looked to see the electric rodent that he battled walking up to him. Sky! Scyther looked away as he thought about something and asked Pikachu how he got to know the trainer. What Scyther heard surprised him even further. This rodent hated the human at first, going as far as electrocuting him before attempting to run away when it ran into a Spearow, the very same Fearow that was nearby. And when a flock surrounded the two, this human caused them all to chase him to keep the rodent safe. There! Scyther gave Pikachu a shocked look that the human had enough patience for that. Pikachu gave a smile before another thought struck the mantis. How the heck did this human survive being electrocuted by the rodent? Now interested in who exactly his new trainer was, Scyther gave him an analyzing look before giving a nod. There! He said to Pikachu, whose ears lit up. Scyther was willing to battle. 0. Austin blinked as he woke up to see Scyther hovering over him. Wah! He yawned as he shifted with Raticate, Butterfree, and Pidgeotto grumbling. Scyther, what is it? There, Sky! Scyther made some slashing motions, in a direction away from Austin to avoid injuring him, as he nodded to the Pokeball on his belt. Wait, you want to battle with me? Austin asked in surprise as Scyther gave a nod of confirmation. All right. Unknown to them, Fearow was watching with a hint of distaste and he turned away. Okay, let's get some training in before the others wake up, Austin said, getting out of the sleeping bag. He looked around before seeing that Fearow was awake. Hey Fearow, want to join in? Row. Fearow cawed, not looking at him. Pikachu glared at Fearow, obviously having enough as he remembered how Austin has been trying to connect with him. It's fine Pikachu, someday I'll get through to HM, Austin said as he turned to Scyther. But who will train you with Dot? Austin felt something squirming against his leg and he looked down to see Kitty, who gave Scyther a challenging look. Do you want to battle? He was more surprised as Kitty gave a nod. Scyther raised a brow, but he looked intrigued. Well. Austin looked over to see Yellow was still sleeping. You should ask Yellow. Kitty made a series of grunts and noises as she shook her head. She wanted to get stronger to protect Yellow and knew Yellow was hesitant in battling enough to let her evolve. Kitty was close, she just needed a push. Well. Okay. Austin said, giving a nod even though he wasn't too sure about this. Chapter 42, Chapter number 41, Kitty vs Scyther. Austin stood next to Scyther on AJ's battlefield as Kitty stood alone on the other side. The only spectators were his Pokémon. Pikachu, Pidgeotto, Butterfree, and Raticate were watching as they were wondering how long this battle would take. Alright, Scyther, let's give it our best, Austin said before looking at Kitty. You give your best to Kitty. Kitty gave a nod as Scyther got ready. Pikachu ran to one side and had a paw in the air. Pika-Pie! Pikachu called out as if he was a referee, before swinging the paw down. Kitty wasted no time in launching a barrage of poison stings that Scyther avoided with agility as he was all over the place with Kitty looking around. Now use Aerial Ace, Austin said, not letting up as the move was more powerful combined with agility. Kitty, however, has gotten used to quick enemies due to watching all the battles and used a string shot to pull herself out of harm's way, leaving a small string trap where she was as Scyther flew into it, causing him to get stuck much to his chagrin. That was when she fired a poison sting, hitting him, and he cried out in pain despite not being poisoned. Butterfree recognized how Kitty moved out of the way as he did in the pewter gym before Scyther finally broke free and used quick attack to slam into Kitty, sending her flying. Rolling on the ground as Austin ordered a wing attack, Kitty used poison string, netting the Scyther as the poison barb sunk in, poisoning him this time. Scyther, are you okay? Austin called out as Scyther cried for confirmation. Ratai. Raticate looked at Butterfree as if to ask what he was teaching that bug, as she knew how Butterfree was Kitty's usual sparring partner. Fet. Butterfree gave an insect equivalent of a shrug before Kitty used string shot to reel herself in, slamming the stinger into Scyther, causing him to cry out as he was on one knee panting. Scyther was annoyed. He wanted to battle to prove his strength, and a Weedle of all things was kicking his butt. Would his new trainer abandon him if he lost here? There's no doubt that his old trainer would just release him right here for this embarrassment. A glow, however, caused him to break out of his thoughts as Kitty was giving off light. Well, it's about time, Austin said with a smile as Kitty changed shape before a Kakuna was on the battlefield. Okay, I think we should stop here. Scyther looked down at that as Kakuna was giving cries of happiness at finally evolving. As he heard footsteps, Scyther didn't respond until Austin was right next to him. A little rough around the edges, but you did pretty well. That caused Scyther to give Austin a look of disbelief. Look, Kitty has been training for the last 2 months, Austin told Scyther as the other Pokémon went over to congratulate the newly evolved Kakuna. She was quick and small, it's easy to see how she was able to fight you so well, but you are strong in your own right. There. Scyther looked doubtful as he was giving Austin a new look as if he was seeing him in a different light. It's true, you kept Pikachu on his toes and he's the strongest of the team, Austin said to Scyther, causing him to look at the rodent who was talking animately with Kitty. We just need to work on your weaknesses and get more in sync, think you can do that? There. Scyther finally decided as he gave a nod. Say. Great, we'll start by. Ash, what's going on? Austin stopped as he turned to see that the others woke up and came out to see the battlefield covered in poison barbs, some of them on Scyther, but they were too busy staring at the Kakuna near his team. K Kitty? Yellow asked in surprise. I can explain. Austin said a little nervously. Thankfully no one held it against him as he explained how Kitty wanted to battle Scyther, and although Yellow looked a bit saddened at how Kitty didn't ask her, she was happy that the Kakuna got what she wanted. You know you're welcome to come with us. Austin offered, remembering how Ash did so in the anime. Thanks, but Sandshrew and I have our path to follow, AJ said as his ground type was next to him the same way as Pikachu and Kitty were out. As AJ held his hand out, Austin smiled and shook it. I'll be looking for you at the Indigo Conference. You won't have to look hard, just be sure to put up more of a challenge jump, AJ said, although his tone told Austin that he was kidding. I will, Austin promised as AJ turned and left. He's tough but cool, Misty commented as they watched him leave. Looks like you found another rival, Brock said, causing Ash to blink as he remembered how this was the only time he ever saw AJ and briefly wondered what happened to him in the original timeline. Tough but cool, Yellow said, looking down at Kitty who looked back up, Misty cringing away as she saw the bug eyes move. I think I understand now. Austin gave a smile before shouldering his backpack as Pikachu jumped back on his shoulder. Come on, daylight is burning. With that, he took off running as the other cried out for him to wait up. Austin's Pokémon team. Pikachu, M, ability, static. Moves, Thundershock, Growl, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Iron Tail, Electro Ball and Thunderbolt. Combo Ion Tail, Iron Tail and Electro Ball, Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Electric Impact, Thunderbolt and Quick Attack, and Counter Shield, Electric Style. Fearow, M, ability, Keen Eye. Moves, Peck, Leer, Focus Energy, Fury Attack, Aerial Ace, Steel Wing and Mirror Move. Combo Aerial Wing, Aerial Ace and Steel Wing. Raticate, F, ability, Guts. Moves, Tackle, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Focus Energy, Iron Tail, Dig, Hyper Fang, Sucker Punch and Attract. Combo Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Burrow, Dig and Quick Attack. Butterfree, M, ability, Tinted Lens. Moves, Tackle, String Shot, Bug Bite, Harden, Confusion, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, and Gust. Pidgeotto, F, ability, Tangled Feet. Moves, Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, Steel Wing, and Twister. Scyther, M, ability, Technician. Moves, Wing Attack, Quick Attack, Slash, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, Agility, and Fury Cutter. Clefairy, M, ability, Magic Guard. Moves, Pound, Growl, Sing, Disarming Voice, Magical Leaf, Double Slap, Defense Curl, and Wake Up Slap. Combo Angel's Descent, Defense Curl and Disarming Voice and Magical Leaf. Pokémon Scene, 43. Pokémon Owned, 7. Badges obtained, Boulder Badge and Cascade Badge. Yellow's Pokémon Team. Kakuna, Kitty, F, ability, Shed Skin. Moves, Poison Sting, String Shot and Harden. Combo Poison Sting and String Shot. Doduo, Dottie, M, ability, Runaway Moves, Growl, Peck, Quick Attack, Fury Attack, Rage, and Pursuit. Brock's Pokémon Team. Onyx, M, ability, Rock Head. Moves, Bind, Tackle, Harden, Mud Sport, Curse, Rock Throw, Rock Tomb, and Rage. Guidud, M, ability, Sand Veil. Moves, Defense Curl, Tackle, Mud Sport, Rock Polish, Rollout, Rock Tomb, and Magnitude. Zubat, F, ability, Infiltrator. Moves: Leech Life, Supersonic, Astonish, Bite, Wing Attack, Confuse Ray, and Air Cutter. Misty's Pokémon Team. Staryu, M. Ability: Natural Cure Moves, Rapid Spin, Water Gun, Water Pulse, and Swift. Starmie, F. Ability: Analytic. Moves: Sicehawk, Power Gem, and Thunderbolt. Chapter 43, Chapter number 42 The Calogion Crepes. Austin grinned as he saw Pidgeotto flying overhead with Butterfree, both of them happy to spread their wings. Raticate, Clefairy and Pikachu were running ahead while Scyther was walking beside him. The others were following his example, with Brock having Geodude and Zubat out. He doesn't have Onix out due to the size of the Pokémon as well as the area, and while Zubat was out, she was on his shoulder to not fly in the daylight. Misty had Staryu and Starmie out, and Yellow had Dottie and Kitty out, with her carrying the last one. The only Pokémon Austin didn't have out was his Fearow because of obvious reasons. It's only been a week since their run-in with AJ, and Austin has been stepping up the training for his team with everyone participating. Fearow did take to training but not enough to follow his instructions in a fight, but Austin sees that as progress. Maybe the loss against AJ's Rhyhorn did knock some humility into the proud bird Pokémon. He had Pikachu helping Raticate out by learning Thunderbolt, and in return Raticate began helping Pikachu master Dig. Pikachu managed to get it done easily with help, while Raticate gave off a small yellow glow showing that she was struggling but would learn it in time. As it turns out, Pokémon have a hard time learning moves that they're normally weak to. Scyther attempted to help Pidgeotto learn Aerial Ace, and he deemed Pikachu strong enough to learn Agility and Brick Break, adding to their arsenal. Pidgeotto took her loss pretty hard and did her best to master Aerial Ace under record time, and managed to learn Double Team in the process alongside Clefairy learning Metronome and Heal Pulse. Austin has been tempted to ask Professor Oak how to teach Raticate Ice Beam, but he decided to wait on that one for now as the team was working hard. Butterfree and Scyther became rivals, much to his surprise, both attempting to prove who the best bug Pokémon was. The rivalry helped Butterfree learn Psybeam, much to Austin's joy, and Scyther managed to learn Razor Wind. Fearow was still lacking due to not listening, but he learned Assurance and Agility in the last week, which would be extremely useful if he started to listen. He wasn't the only one training, as Brock was getting more ready for the breeding competition in Vermilion, and Yellow was trying to train her Pokémon to be better at defending themselves, with Dottie being the strongest considering that Kitty was pretty immobile at the moment. Those two Pokémon of hers have learned some good moves in the week that followed, as Dottie learned Aerial Ace from watching Scyther teaching Pidgeotto. Misty's Pokémon were strong as ever, and she has taken to teaching them some new moves like Scald for Staryu and Signal Beam for Starmie. So are we nearly to Vermilion City? Yellow asked curiously, as they'd been walking for a while and it was getting pretty foggy out. Maybe we would be if someone just stayed on the road, Misty said, giving Austin a look. Oh come on, where's your sense of adventure? Austin asked, not looking back as he purposely got lost, knowing that it was the only way Ash ever met Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. Plus he doesn't know how much longer Charmander has because he did spend quite a bit of time in training, and he remembered that the fire lizard only had a limited amount of time before the flame on his tail goes out. I lost it when we got lost. Misty snapped back before Brock intervened. I think we need a little break, he said as he began throwing stuff out of his bag, one of them being a table, much to everyone's surprise. Why don't I throw something together? How does he fit all of this in that bag? Austin thought in complete confusion. Aha, there's nothing like 100% cerulean coffee, Brock said, causing Austin to grin. Back home he was a coffee person and he missed drinking some upon coming here. You kids are too young for this stuff, but it's pretty good, Brock said, putting it back, causing him to gape. No fair. Austin thought about having coffee taken away like that. How about some prune juice? Brock offered. No thanks, Yellow said, a little sick. I'll pass. Austin agreed. What about some herbal tea? Misty asked with a smile. Good thing I brought my official Pokémon tea set, Brock said, causing everyone to stare. Now the secret to good tea is water, and I just happen to have a good supply of MT Moon Spring water. Should we be worried by what you have? Austin decided to ask, as he never got how he had a Pokémon tea set. Pikachu gave a nod, a little creeped out. The other Pokémon came up to them. Brock's Geodude had a hand over his face at what was happening, while Zubat was shrieking, using her sonar to see everything, and was laughing. And for a special snack, I have for you some Calogion crepes, Brock said in a French accent. What is that, like a Pokémon version of France? Austin paused to contemplate that, as he wondered how the Pokémon version of France was. Hell, America was referenced with LT Surge's nickname as the Lightning American. Plus the Pokémon regions shown so far were Japanese ones due to the names, so was that it for the Pokémon world or was travel to the other regions possible? Also if they were in the Japanese ones, does that mean that he's speaking Japanese instead of English and not realizing it? I love Calogion things, they're so romantic aren't they? Misty asked, breaking Austin out of his thoughts, as Yellow paused, looking at Austin, her face red. Feeling a bit awkward, Austin chuckled. Misty, have you ever had crepes before? No, Misty said, laughing even if she was annoyed at him for breaking her out of her daydream. But I would like to try them. But I can't cook crepes or boil water if I don't have any fire, Brock said with a sigh. Anyone wants to get some firewood? I'll do it, Austin said, rolling his eyes as he remembered from the show how Misty threw the job on Ash. I'll help. Yellow offered as Austin was already leaving after returning his team and ran after him. Brock raised a brow by how quickly Yellow did that. I wonder. He thought before deciding to put it in the back of his head for now. Chapter 44, Chapter number 43, The Infamous Tech School. Thanks, Scyther, Austin said as the mantis cut some of the branches for firewood while both he and Yellow carried some. We wouldn't be able to find any without you. There. Scyther gave a nod as he returned, and they continued walking. Oh, and thanks for the help, Yellow, Austin said as Yellow gave a nod. You didn't have to. I know, Yellow said, and that was when Austin noticed that Yellow was walking a little closer. Man, it's been 2 months, I was hoping that she would get over her crush by now. Austin thought, feeling awkward. Hey, what's that? Yellow's voice caused Austin to look ahead to see a bright light. Pika-Pi, Pikachu! Pikachu cried out, pointing at it. You think it's a fire? Yellow asked as it did look like one. I wonder who it is. One way to find out, Austin said as he tried remembering who it was, but he was at a loss until the people came into sight and he grimaced. It was the Pokémon Tech crew. He admits he kind of hated the episode with how stuck up these people were and how they looked down on people basing test scores on the number of badges that people have. Alright, what's this one? One of the kids showed a picture card as another kid, a brunette in a blue uniform, was running on a treadmill. Is it a Zubat? Listen, just because it's foggy out here doesn't mean that your brain is foggy. One of the 3 boys snapped. The kid looked again as he had an embarrassed frown. It's a Pidgey. Nice guess, you just got lucky. The boy with red hair said with a scoff. The green-haired boy spoke. Okay, tell us what its special attack is. Pidgey's attack is Gust, at LV5 Sand Attack. The treadmill boy panted as Austin raised an eyebrow. He forgot that the original anime used the level terms before it was dropped entirely. Everyone knows that, now can you tell me at which level Pidgey evolves? Red Hair asked with a smirk. And what's the name of Pidgey's advanced stage? The treadmill boy looked lost. You better hurry up and answer. A boy with teal-colored hair snarked. Or you'll have to run faster. The boy just kept running before he slipped and fell off the treadmill. Sorry. He said dejectedly as he pushed himself up. I forgot. You forgot. The red hair boy repeated with a shake of his head. And you call yourself a Pokémon Tech student? You are just embarrassing the school. I think that's enough, Austin said. I think you should mind your own business. Redhead said, not even sparing Austin a look. This is a private training session. There's no room in our school for losers who don't know a Pidgey's evolved stage, we have to maintain standards. Green Hair said. Austin just gave him a look as Yellow put down her firewood to help the treadmill boy up. The only losers I see are the ones standing in front of me. He said, looking at them. There's a difference between a training session and straight-up bullying. You tell them, Ash, Misty said, coming out of nowhere, causing Austin to raise a brow, wondering where she came from. If you don't stop bothering that kid you'll have to answer to us, right? Right, Austin said, turning his glare back at them as Pikachu had a nod of agreement. We don't fight. Red Hair said, shaking his head as Green Hair laughed. Fighting is for cavemen, this isn't the Stone Age, you know. And if we just ended up fighting an insect like you, it'll only make Pokémon Tech look bad. The boy with long black hair began as Austin scoffed. You don't need any help with that, you're already embarrassing yourselves right now by how you handled this training session, Austin said, using his fingers to empathize with it. They glared before the Green Hair looked at the treadmill boy, who didn't budge after Yellow helped him up. We'll see you back at Tech, Joe. Okay, Joe said, surprising everyone as the Tech students left. So those are the infamous Tech students, Brock said, coming out of nowhere, causing Austin to jump as the man had a whisk in a metal bowl, mixing something. Tech students? Yellow asked in surprise. Pokémon Tech, I think it's short for Pokémon Technical, a school for Pokémon trainers, Misty said, rummaging in her pockets. I know I have a paper here somewhere, yeah, here it is. I know about Pokémon Tech, Uncle Wilton was going to enroll me before I went with you guys, Yellow said, surprising Austin. Brock took the flyer. Let's see what it says about this place, he said as Pikachu began messing with the treadmill, accidentally turning it on as he began running on it. Pokémon Technical Institute, a boarding school for serious Pokémon trainer preparation, all students guaranteed to enter Pokémon League upon graduation. Any bets that they're easily knocked out by people who travel? Austin asked in a bored tone. Hey, Joe said, looking at him. Sorry, I'm talking about those other guys, Austin said, giving him an apologetic look. Pokémon Technical is the educational facility for top students who want to become Pokémon trainers in a very short time, Brock said, not paying attention as he leaned against the treadmill, pushing a button causing it to go faster as Pikachu was struggling. Austin sighed and grabbed him before he did a face plant, causing Pikachu to sigh in relief as he was panting, giving the treadmill a slight glare. Oh, so that's the story, Brock said, placing the paper down. So technically it's one of those snobby rich schools? Austin asked, earning a nod of agreement from Misty. Yeah, the ones who think they're better than everyone, Misty said. That's not true, Joe said, looking down as the group badmouthed his school. So where is this school anyways? Yellow asked Joe, who went a little red before pointing in a direction as the fog was disappearing, showing the school nearby. The class for fog techniques is just ending, tomorrow's lesson will be snow competition secrets. Joe sighed. Oh well, I guess tomorrow they'll make me a snowman again. Do they treat you like that all the time? Yellow asked Joe, who gave a nod. My friends are just trying to help me. Joe, right? Austin asked, causing the kid to look at him. Trust me, those are not your friends. Have they ever supported you being in this place? No. Have they ever been there for you without picking on you? No. Joe tried to continue, but Austin wouldn't have it. Then they're not your friends, Austin said, looking at him. Brock gave a nod, agreeing with Austin. With friends like that, who needs enemies? But they helped me learn a lot in this school, Joe said, not meeting their eyes. You don't need this school to learn about Pokémon, Austin said to him. Just travel around and you'll learn plenty of things that you can't learn in books. Pie. Pikachu agreed with a nod. I can't, my parents worked themselves to the bone to send me here, and if I drop out I'll only be disappointing them, Joe said, looking away. I'm only in the beginner class anyways, so the most I could ever get would be 2 badges. Wait, a beginner is the same as 2 badges? Yellow asked curiously as she was learning more about the school she was nearly sent to. Yeah, beginner has the same qualifications as 2 badges, intermediate is 4, and advanced is 6, Joe explained to them before pointing to a tree that had an older guy reading a book. That guy is in the beginner class, but he's been stuck in it for years. This is a messed up system, Austin said as he remembered how school was back home. Sure, he didn't like school, but at least it didn't have a system like around here. I'm happy that I didn't go if this was how it is, Yellow said as she shook her head. Do the teachers even know what's going on? Misty asked as Joe shrugged. The one in charge is Giselle, Joe said, taking a picture out to show them a brunette girl. Whoa, she can violate my rights anytime, Brock said with a goofy smile. Austin felt like he should give Brock a little talk about how he probably creeps some girls out, but Misty spoke up. If she's making your life miserable, then why do you carry a picture of her? I hate the way she treats us, but I like the way she looks, Joe said in embarrassment. Looks aren't everything, Austin muttered. Brock just kept drooling on the picture, causing Misty to lose her patience. Miss Top Student, what's so great about her? She muttered as she began stomping towards the school. I'll show her a thing or two. Should we stop her? Brock asked, a little scared by how she was acting. I'm not sure, Austin said as they began to follow her. Chapter 45, Chapter number 44, an elite of the tech school. Brock just kept drooling on the picture, causing Misty to lose her patience. Miss Top Student, what's so great about her? She muttered as she began stomping towards the school. I'll show her a thing or two. Should we stop her? Brock asked, a little scared by how she was acting. I'm not sure, Austin said as they began to follow her. So you nearly came here? Joe asked Yellow, looking a bit nervous as she gave a nod. Why didn't you? I got the chance to travel and I don't regret it one bit, Yellow said with a smile. Ash was right about how you learn plenty of things by traveling. I see, Joe said before Austin spoke up. Hey, where are the teachers anyways? Austin asked as they entered the school itself. Or the security? The teachers are the security with their Pokémon, Joe explained to them. And they don't get involved unless someone is greatly injured or criminals enter the school, but it's kind of not needed considering every student has their Pokémon to defend themselves. I see, Austin said that little bit surprising him before they came to a room full of green arcade machines. Giselle always practices here by herself, Joe explained as they entered. Even if you win in a fight it won't matter to her, here in Pokémon Tech it's your skill that matters more than one battle. I know what you mean, last week we ran into a guy who trained and nearly won 100 battles in a row before he began traveling and he was tough, Austin said as he remembered the battle. I'm training to get ready for my third gym battle so maybe battling Giselle would be a good challenge. If anything maybe her skill is different like how Brock, Misty, and AJ were better than Canon. Giselle is the top student, that's better than having 3 badges, Joe said crossing his arms. Even though I have the lowest score I'm way better than someone with 2. Excuse me. Austin said frowning as he forgot that Joe was a little snobbish as well before Misty pushed him to the side. Hold up, I learned how to be a trainer at the Cerulean Gym, are you saying that you could beat me? Misty asked in anger. Joe calmly walked to one of the machines. Oh Cerulean City, water Pokémon. Misty blinked. How did you know? I always beat them on the simulator, see? Joe asked as he had a game version of Weepin' Bell one-shot a Starmie as Misty looked like she was about to explode. This won't end well, Austin said. No, it will not. Brock agreed. What's this? A simulation is one thing but this is real life. Misty snapped and Austin tensed as he remembered how this was nothing but anime in his world. Let's battle. You'll be sorry, Joe said with a grin. Austin took a deep breath to try and think straight again as he knew that this was real, and he should be used to it by now. But even after 2 months, it was still too surreal. Shaking his head, Austin tried to talk some sense into Joe. Joe, you don't want to do this, Misty has a lot of experience. It doesn't matter, I have the type advantage, Joe said looking confident, a big change from how he was earlier. Maybe it was because he was getting used to talking to them. Ash butt out, I have the Cerulean City Gym's reputation to defend. Misty snapped when Austin was about to tell Joe that type wasn't everything. Looking between them, Austin sighed and backed up. Joe needs this. Joe held his Pokeball as he sent out a Weepin' Bell right as Misty sent Starmie out. Alright, Weepin' Bell, it'll be just like the simulation, Joe said as he waved to the rest of the group. Joe didn't get a chance to attack as Starmie launched a water gun against Weepin' Bell, knocking him out. What? But Weepin' Bell is strong against water Pokémon. Joe said in disbelief. Snort, you are an embarrassment to this school losing while having a type advantage, fancy around with me, Joe. As if to make sure that his point reached the other boy, the green-haired boy's Pokémon a rather intimidating brava. Austin narrowed his eyes as he felt he knew this boy from somewhere. Joe shook his head. It won't change anything. I just lost because I was distracted and I'll just lose to your Pokémon because of type disadvantage. You know, Austin spoke before he realized it himself. Type advantage can only take you so far. There are ways to counter it just as easily. It seemed that his sudden comment was what made the boy Drew notice him. Pushing himself off the ground, Joe gave a withering glare to Drew and said, Really? You think that you can back up your words against this guy? He sharply pointed towards the green-haired one, who seemed to be preening at his hard-earned praise. Really? You think that you can win against Drew? Another rather short, black-haired, bespectacled boy who stood right next to the green-haired one Drew, Austin guessed was the same rival of May from the anime seemed to look through him. Drew has the highest score in all of the simulations, and he is the one who successfully won through each of Sabrina's and Surge's simulations without a single loss. Brock and Misty frowned at the boy's words while Yellow was confused. Austin's facial features contorted, as his lips almost twisted upward, failing to keep from smirking. And his Pokémon are all at 90+ levels, with the perfect team taking into account all possible type advantages. By my calculation, he is currently at semi-finalist level for the Indigo League Conference. Knowing fully well that there was no such thing as levels in this world, a slight throaty sound was the only indication that Austin had tried and failed to hold back the chuckle. And by the end of the year, he would be able to beat the Elite Four's Pokémon, based on the simulation data I gathered from his performances. Austin couldn't stop himself any further. He guffawed, his palms hitting his thighs as he nearly fell into laughter, much to the other boys' confusion. Brock and Misty had to stop themselves from laughing while Yellow just naively tilted her head to the side. "What? Is there something funny?" the bespectacled boy questioned. Drew simply looked half amused, half bored at the group's shenanigans. Sorry. Austin held up his hands in surrender. "I couldn't stop myself when you started comparing him to the Elite Four." "I'm not comparing," the bespectacled boy retorted in aggravation. "It is based on my calculation of the simulations." "Listen, what's your name again?" "Miles," said the bespectacled boy replied, his glasses shining with a hint of condescension in his voice. "Right, Miles. You cannot just blurt things out like that based on simulations. A real battle out there with the elite is a completely different thing than the simulations you might face here." He wasn't joking. He knew for a fact that Lance he had encountered could easily defeat him without batting an eye, should they battle. "Big words," Miles claimed. "Care to prove it against him?" Miles used air quotes to emphasize his next words, "real battle." Drew raised an eyebrow gracefully as if waiting for him to deny and walk away with an excuse. Sure. Why not?" came the nonchalant reply. It might just have been his tiredness playing tricks, but Joe felt a strange premonition that by asking Ash to battle with Drew, he had set forth something terrible at Pokémon Tech Academy. Perhaps that was why, despite his wish to see the outcome of the battle between the two, Joe acted on his sudden urge to flee and bring the issue to someone with more voice at the academy than his green-haired classmate. "Ivysaur is unable to battle," a shell-shocked Miles muttered out, amongst an equally stupefied audience. Austin folded his arms on his chest, staring at the green-haired trainer in front of him, who seemed to have a certain level of trouble digesting the fact that his no doubt intimidating specimen of an Ivysaur had folded like a pack of cards against his Pikachu. It had taken 20 seconds. 20 fucking seconds. But how? Miles bawled. Ivysaur held better stats and used all the correct moves to absolute precision. There is no way an electric type should. Chapter 46, Chapter number 45, Anger of the Past. Ho, to think that the great Drew has performed this pathetically. A new voice caused everyone to turn and see Giselle with the group that was with Joe earlier. "You and Joe are an embarrassment to this school." Austin narrowed his eyes at hearing that as Joe looked ready to cry, and he remembered that Joe was still a 10-year-old who probably just lost the only confidence he had because of that. While Drew just snorted and left with Miles. "She's just like a movie star," Brock said with a red face. "Get it together, Brock," Austin told him as he crossed his arms before glaring at her. "Who the heck do you think you are to say that to him?" "I'm the top beginning student in the most impressive prep school in the world, Pokémon Tech," Giselle said as she brushed her hair back as if it meant something. "It's sad that others aren't blessed by my beauty, talent, and humble attitude. People call me a star, but I'm just Giselle." Austin just gave a deadpan. "Not exactly humble if you're bragging about it." Giselle just ignored him and walked up to Joe. "I want to help my classmates be the very best that they can be. To teach and respect each other and enjoy the Pokémon of tomorrow." Giselle began before frowning as she glared at Joe. "But you're just a weakling." Joe took a step back in shock as everyone was now looking on in disbelief at what she just said, only Austin was quiet. "You better get stronger fast, or before you know it everyone will leave you behind. Why don't you shut up?" Austin shouted out in complete anger. Pikachu, Yellow, Misty, and Brock looked at Austin in surprise while Giselle looked dumbfounded for a second before glaring. "Excuse me?" Giselle asked with a look. "What did you say to me?" "I told you to shut up." Austin snapped, giving a full glare to her as this was seeming very familiar to him, only it was him in Joe's position back in middle school. 3 years ago. Austin was sweating as he had on a regular blue shirt and shorts, looking at the clock in school. "Come on," he thought, looking from the clock to a girl in his class with silky black hair and grey eyes. That girl was Jane Price, and she was a girl that he's had a crush on for 2 years. Today was the day he was finally going to ask her out. The bell rang after a few minutes with Austin immediately going out of the class. "You can do this," Austin said, taking a deep breath as he smiled, showing some braces that looked new. "Just speak as you practiced." It changed to the courtyard where the buses were as Austin approached Jane and tapped her shoulder. Jane just gave him a look with a raised brow as Austin took a deep breath. Hi. "What?" Jane asked in a bored tone. Swallowing nervously, Austin began. I was just wondering if maybe you would like to. No way, are you? Jane didn't even let him finish as she began laughing. Me? With you? Austin blinked at this as some people were paying attention due to the laughter. I don't date geeks, Jane said as Austin blinked. But then again, who would date one like you? What? Austin asked, taking a step back. Do I have to spell it out, metal face? Jane asked, taking a shot at his braces. You're a nerd, a geek, I would rather be shot than go on a date with you. Austin took a step back at hearing that. Besides, I also know that you're a stalker from how you've been looking at me the last 2 years. Jane continued as Austin's eyes widened. I am not a stalker. Austin tried to say as Jane shook her head. So get out of here before I sick my boyfriend on you, Jane said before putting a finger to her chin. Maybe I'll let him know what happened so he can deal with you. Austin was quiet as she walked off, still laughing as he looked down with pain in his chest and his eyes were getting wet. It took him 2 years to work up the courage to do this, and this was how it ended. Present time. She's as bad as Jane was. Austin thought, shaking in anger. You may think you're all that, but textbooks and schools do nothing to real experience. Austin continued, glaring at her. So stop putting him down. Oh really, how many badges do you have, and how long have you been traveling? Giselle challenged. 2 badges and 2 months. Giselle busted out laughing in a way that made Austin's mood worse, as it was a familiar, condescending one. A beginner, and you've had 2 months with letting your Pikachu walk around freely, you haven't been able to tame it yet? She asked as Austin clenched his teeth while Pikachu was now glaring. Why don't you stop talking about stuff you don't understand, Austin said as his mood was getting worse. I don't understand. I am the top beginning trainer in this academy. Giselle snapped with a look of her own. Then prove it, Austin said, taking a deep breath to force himself to calm down. 3 on 3. I only need 1, Giselle said, wanting to show this kid he was nothing. As she turned to grab her Pokémon, Austin turned only to see the others looked concerned. I've never seen you worked up like that, Ash, what happened? Brock asked with a raised brow. Sorry, it's just. She brought up some bad memories. Austin said, looking away. Shoo. Pikachu poked his foot. Are you all right? Yellow asked, frowning. I'm fine now, Austin said as he saw that she was coming back. Show her that she's not as strong as she thinks, Misty said, wanting to see the arrogant smirk wiped off Giselle's face. I will, Austin promised as he turned just in time to see her release her Graveler. Let's make this quick, I have a study session to get to, Giselle said, flipping her hair back. Austin glared before taking a Pokeball off his belt. Pidgeotto take the field. Wouldn't Raticate make a better choice? Misty asked in shock. At least she doesn't have any weaknesses to rock types. Oh, using a weak type against a rock? I knew you had no idea what you were doing. Giselle said as she looked at Graveler. Use rock throw. Vrr. Graveler dug his forearms into the ground and began throwing huge chunks of the field. Double team. Austin ordered as Pidgeotto began making various copies of herself, using them to dodge the attacks as all of them flew quickly around Graveler, causing him to try to find out which one was the real deal. Steel Wing. The real Pidgeotto shot out of nowhere and slammed into Graveler, causing him to roll as she shot back in with the copies, making more as she did so. Show that bird why you're the best. Giselle said, not expecting the first battle to go this way. Rock Blast. Graveler began shooting pure energy that was coated in rocks, each one missing until one got a lucky shot and sent Pidgeotto down to the ground. Now Smackdown to cripple her. Giselle ordered as Graveler reared his arms back. Run out of the way with quick attack. Austin ordered as Pidgeotto forced herself up and began running, using her talons to dodge the various smackdowns. Whoa, I saw a Pidgeotto do that before, Joe said in shock at how the bird kept dodging attack after attack without flying. And he's only just beginning, Yellow said, remembering how Pidgeotto was in the pewter gym and how far the bird has come. Now use Twister. Austin ordered as Pidgeotto ran before flying up in the air as she circled and used the blast of air to knock Graveler into the air. Now finish this with Aerial Wing. With that done, Pidgeotto shot in, using the same combo that Firo sometimes uses, slamming into the Graveler, sending him to the ground as he was unconscious. That can't be, Giselle said in shock that her Graveler lost to a Pidgeotto. Chapter 47, Chapter number 46, Words of Wisdom. As you said, types don't matter to experience. Austin threw that back at her, causing her to frown. Very well, but the battle is still going, Giselle said as she returned Graveler and sent out her next Pokémon, a blue-skinned one that came up to her knees in height with some spikes on her. Nidorina, you're up. That's a new one. Austin thought, returning Pidgeotto. You were great out there, he said, feeling some warmth from the Pokeball before he pulled out another Pokeball. Scyther, take the field. There. Scyther called out as he appeared for his first official battle with Austin, and he was determined to win it. A bug type, one of the weakest types around. Giselle laughed as Scyther glared. Poison Sting. Giselle ordered as Nidorina began firing poison needles at the mantis, who used agility to dodge them. Get in close and use Razor Wind. Austin ordered as Scyther focused before slashing forward, causing the wind to knock into Nidorina, making her roll across the field. The Nidorina responded by charging in for a double kick that Scyther blocked with his claws before he used Brick Break to send her flying back. There. Scyther grinned at the difference in how a battle with Austin was going in response to battling with Paul. Now use Aerial Ace, Austin said, thinking about future combos he could talk with Scyther about in the future, as Scyther became a blur and slammed Nidorina into the wall, knocking her out. Giselle was shell-shocked that not just one, but two of her Pokémon were taken out while this guy hasn't lost one. But now she glared. I guess it's time to finish this with my starter, Giselle said as she sent out a bipedal brown-skinned Pokémon holding a bone with a skull covering his face. Cubone, time to end this. Oh, no one has beaten Cubone before, Joe said with a wince. Ash may be good, but this is where it'll end. Hey, Ash can beat her, Yellow said with a frown as Austin returned Scyther, congratulating him on a job well done before looking to the left. Pikachu, you're up, Austin said as Pikachu ran out to the field. Giselle blinked before laughing. I knew you would screw up eventually, but sending an electric type to battle a ground type, don't you know that electric Pokémon doesn't do any damage against ground? Just shut up and battle, Austin said, clenching a fist. Giselle frowned before she called out an order. Bone Rush. Cubone's bone lengthened as it began to glow before he ran to swing at Pikachu, who calmly ducked, using agility to move around Cubone, causing him to miss each time he swung. When Cubone missed the fifth time, Austin reacted. Brick Break on the skull. Shoo. Pikachu's paw began to glow as he slammed Cubone, causing the skull to spin. Cubone began to walk around wildly, trying to get the skull to stop as he powered up an Iron Tail and sent Cubone rolling back. Cubone shook his head before standing back up, stamping a foot on the ground in anger. Mud slap that rat in the eyes. Giselle ordered as Cubone did so, blinding Pikachu as he stumbled back. Now Bone Meringue. The bone slammed into Pikachu as he was sent flying back, pushing himself up before the bone hit him again. This is bad, with Pikachu not being able to see. The battle could easily turn to Giselle's favor, Brock said as Pikachu kept getting hit. Sight isn't everything. Austin gave the order. Pikachu, use your ears to locate the bone and then use Iron Tail on it. Pikachu went quiet, his ear twitching as the bone kept coming closer before his tail began to glow and he spun around, slamming into it as it was about to hit his head. The bone rolled on the ground, leaving Cubone defenseless. Cubone, finish this with Fire Punch. Giselle ordered as Cubone's fist ignited and he ran towards the mouse, who still couldn't see. Wait for it, Austin ordered as Pikachu's ears began twitching with each small step the Cubone made. Use Iron Tail to launch yourself into the air and finish Cubone with Brick Break. Pikachu did just that as he sprung high into the air, barely dodging the fiery hit, and as Cubone looked up, Pikachu brought a glowing paw down on his face, sending Cubone back as this time he didn't get back up. It got silent as all the tech students looked at Austin in disbelief while Pikachu finally had time to get the mud off his eyes without worrying about the battle. He beat Giselle. One of the students said in shock. I lost. Giselle whispered, falling to her knees as Austin walked up, calmly letting Pikachu run up to his shoulder as he did so. Do you know why? Austin asked, stopping in front of Giselle, who looked up at him. It's because you look down not just at me, but everyone around you. You are a strong trainer, but that doesn't give you the right to act like the world has to treat you like royalty, because there is always someone. With that, Austin turned to leave, but he stopped. And the best person is one who always helps another person out, not worry about status. Giselle looked away from him and ran to Cubone, who she saw was crying as she picked him up. It's all right, Cubone. She whispered to him, but as she did that, she looked to see Austin being congratulated by his friends as he sheepishly said that it was a close battle despite the fact he steamrolled her whole team. Sure, she gave some good hits, but he didn't lose a single Pokémon in this battle, and seeing him ignore that, just being happy caused her to see some things differently. There are some things that people can't learn in school, Giselle whispered, finally getting it as Cubone looked up at her with teary eyes. Chapter 48, Chapter number 47, A Talk with Firo. It was sunset as they were leaving the tech, but they came along a fork in the road where they saw Joe running to catch up with them. Where's the fire? Austin asked at seeing Joe with a backpack. I'm going back home to start from scratch with Weepin' Bell just like you did, Joe said with a smile. Today was a real wake-up call for me. What about your parents? Yellow asked as Joe looked down. I'm sure they'll understand, Joe said, giving a nod. I'll become a great trainer and make it up to them, I can promise that. Any chance at seeing you at the league? Austin asked, holding his hand out for a handshake as Joe accepted it. Probably not, but I'll try, Joe promised as he went to leave only to hear another voice. You're not leaving without saying goodbye, are you? Giselle walked up to Joe. Yet? Joe asked, looking a little confused at how she was talking to him. Giselle picked up on that and sighed. I owe you an apology, she said, making him perk up. I shouldn't have said all of that, and I wish you luck on your journey. It's fine, Joe said, giving a smile. Thank you. And I hope you do make it to the league. Giselle continued as she held out her hand. Be sure to call. I will, Joe promised as Austin gave a slight smile. At least Joe's crush grew a change of heart with him. Well, see ya, Joe said as he ran, waving goodbye. As he left, Giselle turned to the group. Thank you for the lesson you taught me, Ash, she said to him. I wish all of you luck on your journeys. Just make sure to keep that ego of yours in check, Misty said as Giselle laughed. I deserved that, Giselle said before she heard her name being called. I should get back to the school, I hope to see all of you again. Bye. The group waved as she ran off. Well, today was a delightful day, Brock commented before he frowned. But I still wasn't able to make those crepes and tea. Well, we do have firewood, Austin said as they were passing by where they dumped theirs. What say we set up camp nearby to get ready? 0. That night, after everyone was asleep, Austin was by himself away from the camp. Even Pikachu wasn't with him as he sent Firo out. Row! Firo cried out before blinking at seeing the night sky. Beautiful, isn't it? Austin asked as Firo glared at him. You know, sometimes I like to look at the stars and imagine what it's like to be up there. You're lucky in that regard with being able to fly. Firo caught at him. Firo, I'm sorry, Austin finally said as Firo gave him a weird look. When I started this journey, I used you in a lot of battles because I thought you loved them, and I never thought about having you out without a battle unless you count those nights in Viridian Forest. I messed up. Firo just turned his head away, but he was still listening. It might be too late to make up for it, but I'm not going to give up, Austin said to him with a smile. Firo was silent before Austin sighed. Feel free to fly around all you want, Austin said with a sad look. He was risking the chance that Firo would fly away for good, but to make up for not bonding with him, Austin felt like he should show some trust. That caught Firo off guard as he turned to see Austin walking back towards the camp. After waiting for a few seconds, Firo took to the air, flying into the night sky with a cry as he used his keen eye ability to spot the camp, and he saw all the other Pokémon out, sleeping near their respective trainers. He could leave and never see them again. But as he flew, Firo remembered how this trainer raised him and helped him learn moves a lot quicker than he could have by himself. Firo scoffed as he shook his head. He was only staying for the free food. But no matter how much he told himself that, he kept a lookout over the camp. Pallet Town, Ketchum household. Delia Ketchum's eyes looked like a corpse as she had watched the abysmal ending of her favorite drama. Why did they make that atrocious ending to such a great show? Delia thought with tears in her eyes as she switched channel to channel. The blow of the final episode of her favorite drama and the preceding news of the cancellation of any further spin-offs due to director and producer pissing off a Ninetales, which was confirmed by Baba Gaba, a famous psychic from Johto, that they duo were cursed. To wash away the grief she had accumulated, Delia switched on a nature documentary. 17,000 miles across the sea from Hone, in Johto, Mr. Pokémon eagerly awaited the grand opening of his nature documentary, Poke Earth. In his documentary, he had chronicled the habits of wild Pokémon across the world, and he was not going to miss it. Stop the commercials. I don't want to know about the Apricorn Tumblr or a stupid 1-800 number from Yucine about Suicune sightings. Geez. Just play the documentary already. On the other side of the TV, the show was starting. Welcome to the show, folks. Mr. Pokémon said, in an aged Galarian accent, which made him sound extremely cheesy. Today, we will be exploring the lives of wild Pokémon around the world. For our first subject, we will be exploring the life of the Magikarp. In a flash, a picture of a flowing river appeared, and all of a sudden, two miserable beings started flopping about. You got it, Magikarp. One of the most common Pokémon in the world, the Magikarp is known for flopping in and out of the water, making it easy prey for anything else. The picture then showed slow-motion footage of a Magikarp being carried off by a Hoppip. Austin's Pokémon team. Pikachu, M. Ability, Static. Moves, Thundershock, Growl, Tail Whip, Quick Attack Iron Tail, Electro Ball, Thunderbolt, Agility, Brick Break, and Dig. Combo Ion Tail, Iron Tail and Electro Ball, Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Electric Impact, Thunderbolt and Quick Attack, Burrow, Dig and Quick Attack, and Counter Shield, Electric Style. Fearow, M. Ability, Keen Eye. Moves, Peck, Leer, Focus Energy, Fury Attack, Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, Mirror Move, Assurance and Agility. Combo Aerial Wing, Aerial Ace and Steel Wing. Raticate, F. Ability, Guts. Moves, Tackle, Tail Whip, Quick Attack, Focus Energy, Iron Tail, Dig, Hyper Fang, Sucker Punch, Attract, Thunderbolt not learned yet. Combo Sword Strike, Iron Tail and Quick Attack, Burrow, Dig and Quick Attack. Butterfree, M. Ability, Tinted Lens. Moves, Tackle, String Shot, Bug Bite, Harden, Confusion, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, Gust, and Psybeam. Pidgeotto, F. Ability, Tangled Feet. Moves, Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, Steel Wing, Twister, Aerial Ace, and Double Team. Combo Aerial Wing, Aerial Ace and Steel Wing. Scyther, M. Ability, Technician. Moves, Wing Attack, Quick Attack, Slash, Brick Break, Aerial Ace, Agility, Fury Cutter, and Razor Wind. Clefairy, Cleffy, M. Ability, Magic Guard. Moves, Pound, Growl, Sing, Disarming Voice, Magical Leaf, Double Slap, Defense Curl, Wake Up Slap, Metronome, and Heal Pulse. Combo Angel's Descent, Defense Curl and Disarming Voice and Magical Leaf. Pokémon Scene, 46. Pokémon Owned, 7. Badges obtained, Boulder Badge and Cascade Badge. Yellow's Pokémon Team. Kakuna, Kitty, F. Ability, Shed Skin. Moves, Poison Sting, String Shot and Harden. Combo Poison Sting and String Shot. Doduo, Dottie, M. Ability, Runaway Moves Growl, Peck, Quick Attack, Fury Attack, Rage, Pursuit and Aerial Ace. Brock's Pokémon Team. Onyx, M. Ability, Rockhead. Moves, Bind, Tackle, Harden, Mud Sport, Curse, Rock Throw, Rock Tomb, and Rage. Guidud, M. Ability, Sand Veil Moves, Defense Curl, Tackle, Mud Sport, Rock Polish, Rollout, Rock Tomb, and Magnitude. Zubat, F. Ability, Infiltrator. Moves, Leech Life, Supersonic, Astonish, Bite, Wing Attack, Confuse Ray, and Air Cutter. Misty's Pokémon Team. Staryu, M. Ability, Natural Cure Moves, Rapid Spin, Water Gun, Water Pulse, Swift, and Scald. Starmie, F. Ability, Analytic. Moves, Sicehawk, Power Gem, Thunderbolt and Signal Beam. Chapter 49, Chapter number 48 Fears. Austin yawned as they were all taking a break by a stream in the forest. It's only been 2 days since the incident with the tech school and Misty seemed annoyed by them being lost. Arceus forbid if she ever found out he got lost on purpose. He sat on the rocks as he saw the others were relieved to be resting. As he watched them, Austin couldn't help but feel a sharp pang of guilt. There were times when he wondered if he should have just gone on his own instead of traveling with them. Yes, they were great people and he was happy to get to know them. But he was lying about who he was and they deserved better than that. The sound of water caused Austin to turn to see Oddish drinking from a stream and his eyes widened. This was the part where Bulbasaur came into play. Hey, it's an Oddish, Brock said in surprise. They aren't typically found in forests like this. Oddish, the weed Pokémon. During the day, Oddish usually bury themselves underground to avoid the harsh sun and grow by absorbing moonlight. Hearing the voice of the Pokédex, Austin's eyes shifted towards Yellow, who was happily checking out the Pokédex in her hands. Austin had a feeling that the professor's gifts were a thank you for sending him the footage of Clefairies dancing around the moonstone. As Yellow was given a Pokédex, he was given an transceiver which he recognized from Gen 5 games, while Brock was given a journal of notes about Pokémon breeding and poor Misty didn't get anything. I think Oddish is so cute. Would you mind if I tried to capture it, Misty? Yellow asked. Why would I want to catch a grass-type Pokémon? Misty said while snorting, causing Austin to sweat drop as he could see Starmie's Pokeball in Misty's hand. Go Kitty, use string shot! Yellow joyfully exclaimed as Kitty shot out a white web at Oddish. Austin briefly wondered if he should have interfered, as this would cause trouble, but he decided to not do anything at this point. Kitty's string shot was intercepted by a vine whip as another Pokémon leapt into the clearing and delivered a vine whip on Kitty. Kitty was knocked to the side and glared at the Pokémon, who gave it a sneak attack. The Pokémon in question turned out to be a Bulbasaur. It glared back at Kakuna and then glared at the humans and Pikachu for daring to harm its friend. Wow, a Bulbasaur! They are pretty rare in the wild, Brock exclaimed. Bulbasaur growled a challenge with distrust in his eyes at them before running off with Oddish. Ash, I'm surprised you didn't try to catch the Bulbasaur, Brock commented as Austin blinked before remembering that Ash did try in the show. Didn't you say you were hoping to catch a grass type to balance your team? Well, something about the Bulbasaur just seemed off and I was too busy thinking about that, Austin said quickly. I suppose so, Brock said as Yellow groaned about missing her chance to catch the Oddish. 0. They didn't stay long, as it was unlikely for the Bulbasaur to come back, as everyone walked through the forest area only to come to a stop at a wooden bridge. Austin came to a complete stop as he saw that, his eyes widening. Wow, what bridge is this? Yellow asked curiously as Brock had a map out. That's funny, I can't find it on my map, Brock said curiously when they began to walk across it. Well, it's the only way forward, Misty pointed out before they paused as they noticed how uncharacteristically quiet Austin was being. Looking back, they were surprised to find Austin with his eyes closed as he was making an effort not to look down, and he was still at the beginning. Ash, what's the hold up? Misty called over. And no hold up. Austin stammered as he made the mistake of looking down. Dear Lord, that's a deep drop. Brock frowned. Ash, are you scared of heights? He asked, seeing how Austin was extremely hesitant to go across this bridge. Why yeah, I have a severe case of acrophobia. Austin got out as Pikachu patted his head to calm him down because the shaking was starting to bother the electric mouse. Austin gulped as the fact he knew that the bridge would break didn't help his acrophobia. Is there another way across? Yellow asked Brock as she was trying to hide some surprise at seeing Austin like this. Not that I see, Brock commented to her. And the only other way would be if Firo decided to give him a lift. Austin winced before he began to walk across. Please don't be like the show. He pleaded to hope that this would be one of the changes that have happened. He just caught up with the group when the blast of wind shook the bridge, combined with their weight, caused it to break, and it was hanging lopsided with everyone trying to hold on. Needless to say, this was not helping Austin's phobia any better. Nearly hyperventilating, Austin saw Misty and Yellow manage to grab a hold of the top edge of the bridge, but his eyes widened when he saw Brock slip. Austin didn't even think when he quickly shot one hand out and grabbed Brock by the wrist. The force of the stop nearly caused Austin to let go by mistake as he was hanging onto the bottom part now. Thanks, Brock called out in relief as Austin gave a hesitant nod, trying not to look down anymore. Pikachu, can you get to Butterfree and Pidgeotto's Pokeball? Austin asked, the strain of holding Brock with one hand while keeping a grip on the bridge with the other getting worse. Shoo! Pikachu gave a nod and quickly ran down Austin's body, into the vest where his head popped out and pawed at the right Pokeballs. In a flash of light, Butterfree and Pidgeotto appeared, both of their eyes widening at seeing their state. Pidgeotto, fly and help Yellow to the other side, Austin ordered as she was small enough to be carried by her. Butterfree, use confusion to help Misty. Then come back to us. A little hesitant to leave their trainer, the two obeyed as Pidgeotto flew behind Yellow and softly used her talons to grab the back of her dress as Butterfree's eyes began to glow, allowing him to pick Misty up. Brock, do you think you can climb up? Austin asked. The strain was now more noticeable in his tone. Just give me a few seconds, Brock said as Pidgeotto dropped Yellow off on the edge before she flew back while Butterfree managed to make it with Misty. Brock slowly climbed up to get a hold of the bridge to try to take the strain off of Austin without causing him to let go. "Chew," Pikachu said from Austin's vest before everyone's eyes widened when the rope Austin was hanging onto snapped, causing them to begin falling. They only had a chance to let out a short scream when Butterfree focused to catch both of them in confusion, but the strain of holding all of them was very noticeable in his eyes. The bug wasn't giving up though. Pidgeotto flew in and grabbed Austin by his backpack, allowing Butterfree to focus more on Brock to make the strain manageable. From there on it didn't take too long for everyone to get to the other side as Butterfree and Pidgeotto collapsed from exhaustion. That was close, Misty said, her heart still beating from fear. "I'll say," Brock said, shaken up from how they nearly fell. "Ash, are you alright?" Yellow called out as Austin was hugging himself. His acrophobia was stronger than before now. "Jay, just give me a few moments," Austin said before looking at his two Pokémon. "Butterfree, Pidgeotto, thank you both." Butterfree flew up despite the exhaustion as Pidgeotto calmly walked over. Both were worried about Austin. "Get some rest, you both earned it," Austin said, returning the two. "How come you never said you were scared of heights?" Brock asked after Butterfree and Pidgeotto were returned. "It never really came up," Austin answered, taking a few deep breaths, as his heart was still hammering against his ribs. That was when Austin saw a hand in front of him and he looked up to see Yellow offering to help him up. Giving a slight smile, Austin accepted and was pulled up a bit. "Thanks," he said as Pikachu jumped back on his shoulder. "It's no problem," Yellow said, still looking worried. "That was close," Austin thought while remembering how Brock was the one to fall. "Well, should get going," Austin said, brushing his jeans clean of dirt. "You sure you don't want to take a rest?" Misty asked in surprise. "I'm fine," Austin said, most likely telling himself that rather than it being true. Thankfully, no one disagreed, although they shot some concerned looks back at him as he was behind the group instead of leading it for once. Brock, however, let the girls go ahead before he spoke up. "Ash, thanks for catching me," he said, causing the boy to blink. "I might have been afraid, but I didn't want to lose a friend by not acting," Austin said, a little quiet as the truth of that statement hit him. They were his friends and he was lying about who he was. And what's more, if he ever found out how this happened and reversed it, Austin would be going home, never seeing them again. "Shoo!" Pikachu smiled as he remembered how Austin acted when they were attacked by the Spearow flock despite him being scared. Austin quickly looked down to have his hat hide the tears forming in his eyes as Brock continued. "Yeah, but it just wasn't me you saved. My brothers and sisters would have been heartbroken if I died," he said, having a solemn look. "After everything that happened when Mom passed away and Dad disappeared before he came back, I didn't want to add to their pain." "Brock, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have killed you," Austin said as he quickly wiped his eyes. "You just seem to be one of the types to be too stubborn to die." "Pika-pie." Pikachu gave a nod in agreement. On hearing that, Brock gave a short chuckle. "Thanks," he said before pausing. "You know, you talk like you're older than you should be sometimes." Chapter 50, Chapter number 49, Traps in the Forest. "Brock, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have killed you," Austin said as he quickly wiped his eyes. "You just seem to be one of the types to be too stubborn to die." "Pika-pie." Pikachu gave a nod in agreement. On hearing that, Brock gave a short chuckle. "Thanks," he said before pausing. "You know, you talk like you're older than you should be sometimes." Austin felt his eyes widen as Brock was lost in thought. "Well, a scream cut them off as they looked ahead to see both Misty and Yellow disappear into the ground. Both of them ran forward, Pikachu jumping off of his shoulder as they made it to the hole. "Are you two all right?" Brock called into the hole as they saw both girls with pained expressions. "I'm fine," Yellow said, pushing herself up as she righted her straw hat. Misty, however, was annoyed. "What's a trap doing here? This is not our day, is it?" Austin asked Pikachu, who gave a nod. "Just get us out," Misty said, with both of them reaching in to grab the two. "We must be getting close to the village," Austin thought as he could remember the traps. "Okay. What happened after the pitfall?" Austin asked, trying to remember as they continued through the forest. There was a cracking noise as Misty's foot caught a tree root before a net sprung from underneath them and all four of them were tied together in the net. "Wah, how did we get in a tree?" Yellow asked in shock from the speed they were pulled up. "It's another trap, do something," Misty said as Austin was feeling like a sardine right now. "Hang on, I'm going to try to get this untied," Austin said as he was refusing to look down again and went to move his hands, but they brushed up against something soft. Eve. Yellow's face was crimson red right now as she felt something grab her butt. Sorry. Austin said, embarrassed as he wasn't trying to do that, but his hands were stuck there with how everyone was. Hang on, I'm going to see if wiggling will get it open, Brock said as he tried to move around in the net, but his foot kicked Austin's chest. Sorry, Ash. Ow, watch it. Pika Pie. Pikachu was trying to be peacekeeper as he somehow ended up on Misty's head before they heard a soft growl causing them to look down, Austin paling a bit as he saw how high they were. Thankfully it was more manageable than when they were on the bridge. The Bulbasaur from earlier was looking up at them with a satisfied smirk before he walked backward and turned away, disappearing into the woods. Man, if I could just reach Scyther's Pokeball we would have no trouble, Austin muttered as his hands were stuck. Pikachu, can you get to it? Pika. Pikachu shook his head as he was too far away and the Pokeballs were out of sight, underneath Austin. None of us can reach our Pokeballs, Misty said as Yellow was attempting to move to free Austin's hands, trying to get her face to return to the normal color, but her foot went through one part of the net and she landed right on Austin's back, their faces next to each other. Needless to say, Yellow was too embarrassed to speak as she was now stuck. Pikachu, what about using Iron Tail? Austin began only for Brock to intervene. Bad idea, with all of us, bunched up together, someone would get injured by that, Brock told him as they all sighed. Looks like we're stuck up here until whoever put this trap here comes along, Austin said, wondering how long it took for the girl in the village to find them. I hope it isn't Team Rocket, Yellow muttered. It was a bit as they waited, Austin felt his arm go numb from the lack of movement as everyone was uncomfortable and was getting impatient, especially when they saw the sun beginning to set. Gah, how long do we have to wait? Misty finally yelled before they heard a voice. Hello. They looked down to see a blue-haired young woman wearing a pink shirt and red overalls, her hair was tied into a ponytail with a yellow bow. Brock's eyes went wide as he began to speak. Hello, gorgeous Dot. He was cut off by Misty kicking him in the face. Don't even think about it. She snapped, not wanting him to scare off what could be their only chance to get down. The girl looked confused, but she was wary as she looked at them. What is your business here? We're just passing through, Austin spoke up quickly, wanting to get out of the tree. We're trying to head to Vermilion City. Vermilion City is that way a few days away. The girl said, pointing in a different direction from where they were going. I knew you didn't know where you were going. Misty shouted at Austin, who wanted to glare at her. I didn't see you knowing where we were. He muttered before shaking his head. Thank you, Can you please cut us down, we've been up here for a while. The girl still looked wary before she gave a nod and undid the rope, causing them to fall to the ground with a surprised yelp. Talk about a letdown, Brock muttered in pain as Misty jumped up and began to stretch, happy to be out of the net. Austin blinked as Yellow wasn't getting off of him. Yellow. He began only to see that she fell asleep. When did she fall asleep? Austin asked in confusion as he gave a sigh and shifted a bit to where he didn't wake her as he was able to pull himself up. Thank you, Misty said, feeling a lot calmer now that they were free. Chew Pika. Pikachu agreed to jump off of Misty's head and land back on Austin's shoulder as he grinned and rubbed his head. It was no problem. The girl said before giving a nod. I'm Melanie.
Thanks for listening.